Mayor Pro Tem, and Honorable City Commissioners, this workshop will be the first workshop on the impact fee topic. The kayak has completed its work. Present today is Ms. Leanne Greer, Chair of the kayak, and also Mr. Marcus Pazda. He is. And tonight we have two consultants working for PUB that have been working with staff of PUB and the city to complete their studies. Tonight we have TCB, AECOM, Sherry Rolson, and Shelby Eccles. And then you'll have another presentation by Black and Beach, and that will be done by Richard Campbell and Gemily Andrews. I don't want to delay this anymore, so I'll ask Sherry to please come up and begin that presentation.
And if y'all can keep it quick and sweet, a lot of us here, especially the ones that are here, we know the issues already. So if you want to just get to your point, and let's move on.
Okay, great. My name is Shay Rolson with TCB AECOM. And as soon as the presentation comes up, I'll get started. We did the 2010 Water and Wastewater Master Plan. Oh, is that working? Oh, great. Okay. Oh, excellent. And I won't bore you with all the numbers, but we did do population projections, which Black and Beach will talk about more later, and translated those into flow projections, water demands, and wastewater demands. And what you can see from the water demands is about a 1.7% growth over the planning period. We looked at 2010, 2015, and 2025. And this shows you that you have adequate treatment capacity at your 3 water treatment plants until about 2019, when you'd need to expand either Water Plant 1 or Southmost Regional Plant.
By what year?
2019. 2018, 2019, something like that. We ran a water distribution system model with those projected demands and identified about $43 million in improvements with a phased, and looked at the phasing over the 3 planning years. This is a map of the water distribution system. Red are the improvements for 2010, green for 2015, and blue for 2025. And you can see that they're mostly identified improvements to help facilitate moving more water from your water treatment plants out into the growth areas in your distribution system.
Excuse me, ma'am, one question.
Yes, sir.
When you talked about the projections, and going back to the slide in terms of the water, this is consumption made by our residents, correct? This is normal consumption. This does not include the city asking PUB asking the residents to scale back on water. This has nothing to do with any of that, correct? This is just, I'm going to use as much water as I want.
This is your average per capita daily water use based on historical usage. Switching to the wastewater side, we also did wastewater flow projections similarly in the system. And what you can see from these, the wastewater collection system is divided into a north system and a south system. North system is served by Robindale wastewater plant. South system is served by Southside wastewater plant. Nearly all of the projected growth is on the north side. So you can see in 2025 under the no change scenario, going up to about 11.4 MGD on the north side, where your treatment capacity at Robindale is only 10 MGD. So, whereas on the south side you have a very small amount of growth and plenty of treatment capacity with that 12.8. So, one scenario that we proposed, or the scenario that we proposed, is to transfer flows about 2 MGD from the north to the south to better utilize that treatment capacity in the south. You will, because of that 9.4 is very close to your permitted capacity of 10, you'll also need a planned expansion at Robindale. We also looked at the 166 lift stations in the Brownsville system and identified the capacity upgrades that will be required at the lift stations to move the wastewater through the system in the future. It's about $24 million in improvements. There are also collection system, this is pipeline improvements. This Lift Station 41 reroute is already under construction. That will move some flow from the north to the south. Then these are some additional pipelines to move flow around your system, and then the reroute to the south that we discussed. And this is a map of the wastewater collection system. This is the transfer of flows that's under construction from Lift Station 41 to south side. This orange over here is the transfer from the north to the south, anticipated for the future to help better utilize the capacity you have at south side. And these green lines are pipelines to serve future growth at Robindale. It would be really hard to convey that flow through the existing collection system. It would overload that. So this allows you to take it all to Robindale. Should I stop here? Okay. We also looked at options at Robindale versus rehabbing now and expanding later. And the bottom line on that was that it's going to be a lot more cost effective for you just to do the expansion now. And I can answer any questions on that later if you want to. But I know we're short on time. So,
you know, man, let me ask you a quick question. Your role in all of this was to, as the consultants for PUB on behalf of the city, was to look at projections and give us estimates and cost figures, correct?
Right. This is a water and wastewater master plan, which basically identifies what do you need to build in terms of infrastructure to meet your projected demands. And you all don't do anything else. That was the limit of our project. But in terms of the firm, in terms of telling us you need X amount of lift stations, X amount of the following, and the cost, you all don't do any of those things, correct? No, we did do that. That's what. No. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You all don't build the lift stations. You don't do the engineering work for lift stations. Oh, we do engineering work for lift stations and force mains. That would have to be contracted through your firm. Right? It would. So, I mean, that was not a part of this contract. No, this contract was limited. And I just want to know what. But in terms of our capabilities, in terms of what we do as a firm, we do planning and design and construction management. You did this study, right? Basically, you did the study? Yes. What did the citizens of Brownsville pay for this study? How much did it cost? This study was about $450,000. $450,000, and it took you how long to do it? It took us about 12 months. Wow. I'm giving you the thumbnail sketch of the results. And this is after what Black & Veatch had done their study from a year ago, right? Well, Black & Veatch's study is on the impact fees, so they took the proposed improvements that we identified and developed the impact fee from those cost estimates. So we paid for another impact fee study so you could do your study. Those are two different costs. They are two different costs. Okay. Well,
may I expand on Shay's answer? We contracted to do the study to project the population growth, to evaluate all of your facilities as to their capacity and the future capacity that would be needed to accommodate the growth that was defined. That was addressed on both your water system and your wastewater system. We have been working here in Brownsville since late 1980s. I've personally worked on probably 30 or more of your lift stations. I have personally done the management of the expansion of your last two wastewater treatment plants. And so all of that knowledge helped to put this information together in the time frame. But this was facilities that we were addressing. Pipes, pumps, lift stations, plants. The Black & Veatch function was a financial function.
So last year when they did their impact fee study, did you do a study right after that? Just like you did this year?
We did a study of your water and wastewater master plan in 2002. 2002 you did?
Yes,
sir, and that was the last time it was updated until this study that we finished here.
And this is This is the master plan. So this is all the report and the exhibits and everything that helped identify the improvements.
But again, if we want to go into details, we can go into more details. We tried to abbreviate this for the presentation today because of the different topics you have to cover. But be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Campbell will now do the Blackened Beach study. Yes.
Mr. Commissioners, I'm Richard Campbell with Blackened Beach. Realize we're pressed for time. What I want to try to do this evening is really give you an idea, quickly, give you an idea on what we've been dealing with over the last few months in developing the impact fees and what the process involved and actually what the results are on that. So first portion of this won't dwell on agendas or anything. First portion of this, though, I'm really just trying to bring y'all up to speed on what are impact fees, what's the process. I'll go through those quickly. I just want to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page and understanding before we move forward. Main thing, what are impact fees? A lot of this is driven through Chapter 395. It defines what it is that we're doing in the process, and basically the impact fees are really just a charge by the municipality, by the entity, to developers, in this case, for new development to pay for infrastructure, to have it in place. What do we do with impact fees? How are they used? How are you using them? They're one-time payments. They go for infrastructure, new capital expenditures to meet your new growth. The goal is to try to get the new growth to pay for its share of it. Major system expansions. Really the goal of it is try to reduce the debt that's going to be laid upon your ratepayers. What are you funding now? What will we fund through these impact fees? From the water side, it's going to be supply, treatment, distribution facilities. Wastewater side, collection, your treatment facilities. What it does not do is it's not going to fund any, repair, rehab, upgrades for the sake of just upgrading facilities that serves current growth.
Let me ask you something real quick, if I can.
Yes, sir.
From the study you did in 2006, I believe?
Yes,
or
sir.
7?
6.
You did a study in 2006, and that was for a 5-year plan, right?
Right.
So you're coming back giving us impact fee study for a 10-year plan, right?
Yes, sir.
And did a lot change?
Growth numbers changed. That's probably the biggest thing that changed. Your growth that's going on right now, obviously, it's happening across the country. Y'all are experiencing it as well. It drops. Some of the infrastructure needs are different. Some infrastructure needs didn't change at all.
How much do we pay for this study this year?
This one will be probably around $160,000.
$160,000?
Yes, sir.
Compared to the one last year, which was what?
$250,000.
$250,000?
It was about 2 years ago. I think we started it 3 years ago, actually, and it was $140,000.
Wasn't it closer to 200,000?
Sir?
Wasn't it closer to
200,000.
200,000?
I don't.
225, right? Absolutely.
The original study had other components to it, and it had a miscellaneous fee study in addition to some rate components that are on the electrical side. The impact fee portion was only $140,000 of the overall 225 contract.
225. Okay.
Now, the local government code asks us to do this every 3 years. Is that correct, to revisit the impact?
No, sir. Every 5 years.
Every 5 years.
Yes, sir.
So then every 5 years we have
have to do it every 5 years.
Every 5 years you have to go and do the study, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, whether we pay
Or every 10
$100,000,
years.
whether $400,000, it all depends on what gets what we request for proposals, correct?
No, sir.
No?
There's a certain process that has to be done.
No, what I'm saying is the cost of the study we don't determine what the cost of
No,
the
sir.
study is going to be, correct?
No,
So
sir,
when
that's
we go
correct.
for requests for proposals, and firms, whoever,
Whatever the results are, that comes back on that. Yes, sir.
Well, let me ask you
every
something.
5 years, though, every 5 years, that has to happen.
Yes, sir.
We can't say, well, 5 years ago, let's
If
take
you're
this
going to
study.
have an impact fee, that has to happen.
But if you're doing a 10-year plan, why do we have to come back in 5 years and do another study?
That's the way the code is written. That's the way that it purely follows what the Chapter 395 drives it.
There's two things you're gonna need is LUAP and the CIP. Those
Yes, sir.
two things, right?
Yes, sir.
So, in 5 years from now, are you gonna come back and do this study and charge us another $160,000?
Probably will
Probably.
come. Actually, it shouldn't be quite as much because what happens now is it will be an update. This was not an update because you did not have
But here's
a
a
true-
10-year study, like Commissioner Atkinson, here's a 10-year analysis
Yes, sir.
study.
I think what's happening here is that this was neglected for far too long. Now to come back right now and say, well, what are you going to charge me in 2 years? What are you going to charge me in 3 years or 5 years? It's totally
irrelevant.
redundant because this is a practice, including myself, I was guilty of until it came up when I was in earlier office, that this practice wasn't being followed. We have a chance to rescue this right now, and we have a chance to continue in the future. So if this study is called for every 5 years, and it's set at such a price, like Commissioner Camarillo says, we'll go out for our queues and we'll get it done. But this is a practice that we need to continue
Yeah.
from now on. The ball has gotten rolling. We need to continue with it and not fall into that same trap
Totally
that previous
agree.
commissions did in the
I
past.
totally agree. I just want the people at home to get a gist of what's been spent in the last 2 years to finally get to where we're going to, which is setting an
Yes, sir.
impact fee.
And truly, this is out, as you said, this is out of your hands. 395 drives what it is that you have to do if you intend to have an impact fee.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes. Again, as I was saying, one thing you don't use impact fees for is for your existing customers' existing capacity. So everything that you charge impact fees for has to be for new growth.
Before we go any further, because I read this thing last night, your study, and it's pretty lengthy. There's a lot of projects that are ongoing. You're going from 12-inch pipes to 24-inch
Yes, sir.
pipes. That is due to the growth. And is that considered, it's being done because of the new growth, because the new development. So then impact fees apply to
Yes,
that
sir.
work, those projects?
What it does not apply to, for example, and we'll hit that in here, but what it doesn't apply to is it doesn't apply to the portion that's serving your existing customers. Say if I go from a 2-inch to a 4-inch, 50% of it's already being used by your existing customers, you can only apply that 50%
50%, okay.
to the new growth.
Okay, I understand.
So
Thanks.
you can do that, but you can't do upgrades
Okay.
or updating on your existing system just for the sake of updating. If it provides new capacity, that portion is allowed.
Now, let me ask you something. When a developer develops 100 houses and has to stretch lines out there, any existing subdivisions that tap into that main line, they pay back to the original developer, right?
Any existing system, they have already paid. The impact fees will go in to the PUB city, if you would. Any impact fees that are paid.
I've seen checks. I've
the
seen
new
checks
develop,
that PUB get paid back to.
those are outside of the
Developer.
impact fee numbers. Those are individual agreements between the PUB and the developer. And those, any infrastructure that a developer puts in, lift station, lines or anything, those aren't included in the calculation for impact fees. Those have to be credited out. So it's only what PUB is going to put in, infrastructure they'll fund. There we go. Again, as we talked about it, and it was brought up by Commissioner Garza, 395 drives this. There's certain things that you have to do. You have to appoint a kayak committee. You have done that. They have walked through this whole process. Their role in this is really to oversee, provide direction, understand the process, and then they also have an oversee process as you go forward once it's adopted. Land use assumption plan that has to be developed was done in this case as well. All that's doing is determining what is happening, where is growth going, what's causing the growth, be it residential, commercial, what's driving that, and where is that occurring. Capital improvement plan, also developed in the process. In this case, started out through your master plan that TCMB did. From there, from the master plan that is built off of the land use assumption, then you develop the CIP and determine what's going toward new growth. From there, we develop a maximum allowable charge through equivalent service units. We'll talk about that in a minute. Once we've developed that maximum allowable charge, something we're going to provide you tonight, then it's the commissioner's role, city commissioner's role to determine what that fee is going to be.
Let me ask you real quick. Shouldn't we get a recommendation from the PUB board and its staff?
No, so your recommendation will come, the way this process goes, is your recommendation will come through the kayak.
Through the kayak?
Through the kayak, yes, sir. Okay. So, and because while the task, the PUB and the staff has tasked to help develop this, has worked through this whole process, they're not the one recommending or driving. It's basically, it's really the city that does this. The PUB does it because they are the entity that charges, that runs the operations, but it's really the kayak to a city staff or city commission. We've done some things, and quickly we'll walk through. There were some assumptions and things that went into this. Obviously, there were many. These are some key ones. One key thing, and this was driven through the land use assumptions, is we looked at a 2% growth rate for the 10-year period. Now remember, it's going to go up and down. It was well above 2% a few years ago. It's below 2% now, but over the 10-year period, we're looking at a 2% growth. The service area we use is the same service area as what went into the master plan development. In the master plan, the CIP was developed for 15 years. We're only doing a 10-year plan, so that was taken into account as we developed the impact fees, determined the expenses. CIP, our role in it, it was developed. The master plan was developed. The CIP was developed through that. We reviewed it, checked cost numbers, checked flow numbers, and just overall verified what went into the CIP, signed off on that. Financing costs. One thing we did is determine that we're going to issue debt to pay for this, and the debt went in $30 million increments up till the 10-year period where everything was paid off as needed. The way this went is the debt was going to be paid through impact fee dollars, except for because of your environment right now, because of the environment that the country is going through right now, we're taking the first $30 million increment that's going to be issued to start these impact fee or growth-related projects, if you will, and that's going to be rolled back into rate dollars. It's going to be paid through rate dollars for the first $30 million. What that's going to allow you to do, because you don't have the growth right now, get these projects started and start collecting impact fee dollars as things move forward. That'll basically about cover roughly 3 years worth of projects and growth. And at that point on, through this process, the kayak is going to be working with the PUB staff, see where the projections are falling out. Are there adjustments up or down? Do the fees need to go up? Do the fees need to go down? Is growth happening the way it was projected to do? And does your CIP still hold true? Basically, if growth is not happening, you're going to look at it before the 5-year process, as you were talking about. Kayak is going to work every 6 months, every 3 months. They're still going to review this. So this doesn't mean this is your number for 5 years. So it's an ongoing process.
You know, I guess my question is that you're talking about taking the $30 million and getting started with about 3 years worth of projects. Yes. Why 3 years? Why not look at a year? You know, again, considering the stability of the way things are, we don't know. But we're going to say we're just going to go forward 3 years. Here we go. Just get it done. And then after those 3 years, why not look at more a year or 2 year and then make the adjustments?
And you can, and that's a good question. That's what you hope to do. When you hit a point where it's not happening, you push projects off or you stop projects. Some projects have to be, you can't do a portion of a project, so that's what's happening here too. Just because this is the plan doesn't mean you're going to go all $30 million and spend it all. As it doesn't develop, as it doesn't happen, you push those projects off or stop them.
And I guess the other side is, what's the likelihood of, currently right now, the projections state that this area will need upgrade 2-3 years down the road. What's the likelihood of that still holding true? In which we the foresight of we do need to do it, and let's finish it out. If it tells us we need it now, do we know that's going to tell us that same thing in 3 years? Is what I'm saying.
We would. We would hope it would. It is a projection. We really can't project what the economy is driving this. I don't think anybody would have projected this downturn right now. As it stands right now, this is what we project for the 10-year period. That is one big driver and why you do it every 5 years too, is because it is an unknown and it goes up and down. We'll hit the land use assumption plan quickly here. All this is we talked about before, there were really two things that were done here. The land use assumption plan was developed and your city staff worked and helped develop that. Also, TCMB developed their own alongside that. And all we've got here is just the data sources that went into, I guess, providing the numbers, providing the patterns and the usage patterns in this. This is just a blow up of your service area here. In the tan, or yellow if you would, this is the service area that went into the TCMB master plan. In the green also shows what went into the land use assumption plan. Off on the west side up the top left, the difference in that is that contains some of your dual service area that you're not the only one that serves there. What we used in developing this is we really focused more on the master plan area, slightly smaller. The way it came out though is basically the numbers were pretty close to the same. So what that means from our standpoint, from your standpoint, is regardless of which one you use, the CIP didn't really change. Infrastructure needs really didn't change much at all regardless of which one you did because they were that close. And again, the way it was falling out then, and really still what we're looking at for the 10-year period, it was still estimating and projecting to be a 2% growth for that portion, for the customer growth. Mentioned equivalent service units a little bit ago. That 2% growth is really going to result in a population growth for 10 years. It's a little over 41,000 people on that. What we calculate is a basis of 4.14 people per connection, which gives us right under 10,000 additional connections. So right under 1,000 new connections a year over the 10-year period. These are any connections. It can be residential, it can be commercial, it could be 3/4 inch up to 10 inch or whatever that might be. So really your equivalent service units, what that tries to do is bring everything back to the same playing field if you would. Your 5/8 or 3/4 inch customers are given a basis of 1 and everything else is related back to that. Obviously the reason this, larger size meters, you expect a potential greater capacity and flow and demand on your plants and on your system. So that's why you develop the equivalent service units. You look here to the left, your meter sizes. Let's just quickly explain what I'm talking about. These are your meter sizes that we're looking at. These equivalency factors on the right-hand side, these are just AWWA equivalency factors. And it's basically is saying for a 3/4 inch, we said the smaller one, the residential customers, are 1. If you notice the 1 inch or 2.5, that's just telling us that you have the expectation of a 2.5 times greater demand through this 1 inch meter than you do on the 3/4 inch. So we're basically saying that a 1 inch meter is roughly the equivalent of 2.5 3/4 inch meters. So we're trying to bring everything back to the same thing. These are your 2008 meter connections. You've got a total of almost 46,000 converting those to ESUs comes out to a little over 59,000 ESUs or 3/4-inch meters on your system. And then the same thing on the sewer side, from 44,700 to a little over 53,000. Now on the projected, through 2018, projecting total of 55,000, almost 56,000 meters in connections, equivalent service units, back to same as 3/4-inch meters, almost 72,000.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
John, does this take into account the, because we're in talks with the Southmost Regional Water Supply of taking them on. Does that include the connections over here and potential new connections in that service area?
Yeah. I don't believe it. I don't believe that went into it. No, sir.
So then, which looks like it's going to happen. I mean, there's every reasonable expectation that we will be taking over that water supply district. Harding, I'm sorry, Harding. So that would be.
That did include El Jardín, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry,
Okay.
it threw me on the
I'm
other.
sorry.
I did.
Harding.
So it did, yes, sir. It does include that.
Okay.
Through this whole process, then, we're projecting almost 10,000 new connections for both water and sewer through the 10-year period. In an ESU standpoint, that's about 12,500, 12,600 in ESUs for water and 11,700 for the sewer side. Again, it's a growth in connections for 10 years of 2%. And obviously they're different because you've got different connections on the water and sewer. Now, CIP, again, our goal in this was to validate what the recommendations were for the CIP, for the master plan, what went through that process, based upon everything that went ahead of time, your land use assumptions. TCMB went through in the master plan with your staff, with the PUB staff, in developing the master plan and developing the CIP. CIP, it comes directly from your master plan, and again, it'll feed into the whole process here. What we're showing on this is just basically for your water pumping, your storage and treatment facilities. You don't need any additional capacity for this 10-year period. On your water distribution facilities, you are going to need additional capacity to serve your growth in this 10-year period. So we mentioned before, the master plan and what's developed from there is over a 15-year period. We took that into account. So anything we include in here that came from the master plan, we only include 67% of it, 10 years out of the 15 years. So, and the same thing as we discussed before, any upgrade on your existing system that you have, you only include that portion that's going for new growth. You don't include the portion there that's already serving your existing customers. Wastewater side, for your collection, pumping, and your treatment, there's going to be additional capacity needs. Some of that Shay already discussed with Robindale. Now, Southside has some, and also you have some available capacity on your lift stations. Again, as we've mentioned before, anything that the developers have contributed are not included in these numbers, in the expense numbers, in the calculations. So they are credited back those amounts. Collection system's going to require additional improvements. Same thing, lift stations. Portion of the lift station that's already serving your existing customers, that's not included. Anything that's upgraded to, that part's included to serve your new growth. Overall, on the CIP, roughly 90 projects, capital improvement projects, were reviewed on this. Of those, 24 were identified as serving new growth. Now, 17 of those fell into the water side as far as growth-related, capacity-related projects. 7 of those were on the wastewater side.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I have a question real quick.
Yes, sir.
No, that's okay. Let me listen some more.
You said the developer gets a credit. What are you talking? When does he get that credit?
In this process, you can do one of two things. You can either include those numbers. For example, say the developer spent $100,000 to put something in. I can...
You're talking about impact fees, you're talking about what
Yeah,
it costs.
yes, sir, yes, sir, on the impact fees.
You're talking about impact.
If the developer spent $100,000 to put lines in, I can either include those lines in the process and then just credit them back $100,000 on the impact fee, lower it, or I can just not include the lines. In this case, we didn't include that $100,000.
But doesn't he get credit back when he charges the person who's buying the house what he paid to build the house?
Well, not a credit. He gets that number back on
He
what
gets
he
that
builds
number
into the
back,
cost
right?
of his house. If he spent $100,000 to put lines in, he's going to
gonna pass
include
it to
that
the
in the
customer.
cost of his
He's
house.
going to pass it to the customer.
So he'll get it back from the customer, yes, sir. But on the flip side, the PUB didn't spend that money, so we can't include that in our impact fee number because it's not a cost that we incur. So that's why I talk about credits there. If we didn't put it in, if we're not putting it in, if we didn't pay for it, we don't recognize that one. All I've done here, this is the water system. We won't go over each of these individually. These were the 14 CIP projects that were growth related from the CIP that was developed. And if you look, say on the top one, project number 13, if you notice the eligible capacity, 66.7%. That meant whatever that project is, it was determined to be a 15-year project to meet growth. We're only doing a 10-year plan, so we're only including 2/3 of that. The total cost of that was $7.6 million. About $5.1 million is what's going into this calculation, because that's the 10 years. The bottom one, the project number 38, 20.4%. What that probably was maybe it was an increase in a line size. The total project, $1.4 million. The capacity, the growth-related portion for new growth is only 20% of that. So we're only recognizing roughly $290,000 for the calculation here for the water CIP. So that's what I was talking about. We recognize the difference between what's currently being served and what's needed for growth, as well as what's needed for growth over the 10-year period. Well, you'll see. And also, total projects on the bottom line, a little over $35 million is what was recognized as growth-related projects. What's included in this 10-year calculation, a little over $20 million. Same thing then on the wastewater side. You see in the left-hand column, this is a portion of the total project that's actually included as a cost in this 10-year period. And then at the bottom, 72 million, a little over 72 million were identified as growth-related projects for wastewater. A little over 33 million is what went into the calculation for this time period. Again, calculation because part of it falls outside the planning period. Calculation because some of it was already existing, so we don't ask the new customers to pay for that. Impact fee calculation. When you're talking impact fees, really your expenses are going to come from three things. One is going to be your existing system, the portion of your existing system that has available capacity. Second thing is going to be new capital projects that you have to put in for growth. And the third thing is going to be any financing or other costs that are associated with those projects. Those are included as well. On the flip side of that, as we're talking about credits here, there are credits that go along with that also. You're credited, or as we talked about, we just left it out of the equation. Any developer contributions are credited back, or they really, in this instance, they're not included. Anything on your existing assets that serve growth and is available for growth but has debt on it, we have to credit back that debt that's already there because of the third thing. Any cost that you have that the ratepayers are already paying for or will pay for can't be included in the calculation. Otherwise, if I paid an impact fee to you and then came in and those costs were in your rates as well, then I'm paying for it twice. So we have to make sure very careful that we credit that back and that doesn't happen. And really, the end result here, we get our total impact fee eligible cost just by taking the total cost and dividing that by the ESUs for both your water and then your wastewater systems. And this will step through quickly, and here's your impact fee numbers, really what you were waiting for through the whole process. On the top line, and I'll just walk us down, your existing assets that you have on your system that have available capacity to serve new growth, $3.3 million. Then the next line, that growth-related CIP, if you'll recognize from a few slides ago, that $20.3 million. And we also said that you can recognize financing costs associated with that. Because I'd say we're going to issue debt to cover that. These are the financing costs associated with that debt issue. Now we have to credit back almost $2.2 million. This came from the principal that you already have associated with your existing system that's available for new growth. So we have to credit that amount back so we're not paying for it twice. And also, the last line, the credit for future utility service revenue, that's that portion of that $30 million that I said we were going to issue and we were including the rate base and under the water and sewer rates. This is the portion of the water rates that we're crediting back there. So we can't charge it in your impact fees and then charge it in your rates. So overall, the number that will go into calculating the impact fee from the water side is almost $17.5 million. We had our 12,569 ESUs. So your maximum allowable water impact fee per ESU, new connection there, is $1,389. Same thing on the wastewater side. Your existing assets, you have about $3.5 million in existing assets available for new growth. That CIP, growth-related CIP, from a few slides ago, a little over $33 million. Financing costs associated with that, a little over $11 million. Now we've credited back principal that you have on your existing system, about $1.1 million. And then the credit back for that initial debt issue that we're going to do, and we're going to place in the water and sewer rates, a little over $22 million. So your impact fee cost for wastewater, about $24.5 million. That's going to give us a maximum allowable wastewater impact fee of $2,097. You see on the total here, it's going to give you a maximum allowable of $3,486. And the reason I emphasize this maximum allowable is because based on everything that went into this, the process, the projections, the recommendations that we've gotten, the assumptions that we made, this is the most that you can charge for your impact fees. And this is basically the end of it right here. And if there are any questions here, I realize I ran through it really quickly. Trying not to bog it down for anybody.
So basically, that's the number, 3,486.
That's the maximum.
It is the maximum.
If you do the projects that are projected to be needed, as the growth occurs as it's projected, and if you do the projects that are projected to be needed, that's how much you'll need. Yes, sir. Anything that you scale back on that, obviously you'd have to scale back on projects. To the extent that the growth does not occur, stays down, we don't hit the 2% growth over the 10-year period, then it's a moot point. However, if growth does occur, then the money will have to come from somewhere.
Bless you.
And where does it usually come from?
Rates. Water and sewer rates. Yes, sir.
So if we don't adopt this number and do the projects that we're scheduled to do, we're going to have to raise rates.
Yes, sir.
Even if you adopt the number, you're still going to have to raise rates, correct?
Even if you adopt this number
the rates
and
will
everything
still have
gets
to be
built as
increased.
planned, you'll have to raise rates to cover that first $30 million that we discussed,
But not
but for everything thereafter. Then it should fund itself.
It should fund itself?
Yes, sir.
What if this commission does not want to raise rates in 2010?
It's a choice. However, you can't come back if this is the number that needs to be charged. And our task, please keep in mind, our task is simply to give you this number.
I know,
it's not,
but we're just...
But if you choose not to raise rates, you can't make it up by charging $4,000 next year to catch up, because this is the most that you can charge. So if you choose not to raise rates to catch up, to get you there, Your only alternative is to drop projects.
Maximum allowable, but we can also sit down at the table with PUB and say, these are the maximum amount, but we need to work on finding, not solutions, but saying, this project will wait. But overall, I understand it still affects the matrix as far as what will be charged and what projects will be done.
That's absolutely right, because keep in mind the CIP wasn't a wish list. It was really a plan developed to meet the growth projections. So it's not something it would be nice if we had. This is what expected to come. This is what it's going to take for us to get there.
So it's critical for us to understand that we either adopt this number, or if we go less, that we're going to have to raise rates, because we cannot come back and adopt a higher number to make up the difference that when we didn't do it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
So
And
then
once
any
it goes
future
into rates,
commissions-
it's in rates.
Yeah.
And it can't come back into the impact fee number.
So any future commission will be put in a spot to where they're forced to raise rates.
Yes, sir,
Now,
that's
we
true.
have spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we've lost millions of dollars.
Yes,
by
sir,
not
you really have.
By not adopting the impact fee that was recommended the first time. Okay.
21 years, paying $280
I'm referring
per
to,
month.
I'm referring to when we started the impact fee here.
4 years ago, almost?
2004.
Yes, sir.
2004. The recommended rate was $3,098, and we spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and lost millions of dollars by not adopting a rate
Yes, sir.
as recommended the past 4 years. So I guess the commission, what's going to have to do is decide if it wants to ignore the investment we've made all these years to come up with a number by the professionals or not.
And if I could, please
But let me
keep
say
in mind
this,
this
I
is...
don't think anybody wants to ignore anything. I think we want to get it right. And, Richard, one of the things that I think is an issue is when you went back to the slide that gave percentages, 66%, 40%, 20% of the impact, the new impact.
Yes, sir.
If I'm just thinking about it, I'm looking at, well, something's at a 66 impact versus a 20%. Why do I want to work on the 20%? If it's going to have 20% of that, why do I want to figure that into my overall cost when I want to look at what's above 50%? Whatever's above 50% seems to be a number that we need to work on that right away.
Yes, sir.
So that's just my process in thinking when you show those percentages of what the impact would be on the new growth.
Okay, thus far for the past 4 years, we have ignored the advice of the professionals, which was $3,098 to adopt. Now, if we don't adopt this similar rate, $3,486, can PUB go back and make it up? Can we adopt, if we adopt less, can we give the charge to PUB to come back and tell us what part of the master plan to meet future growth we cannot serve?
Yes, sir, that would be the process. It sure would.
Because I think then we need to let the developers know, don't spend your time in this area. We're not going to be able to meet your needs.
That's a fair statement, yes, sir.
Unless this commission is going to say, we're going to raise rates to the citizens to meet that need.
There's really only two choices.
Okay.
And it's the only way you can get the money. You either push something off or you pull it from somewhere else.
That would be my recommendation.
Plus, Imagine Brownsville is setting where our future growth is going to be, so our developers can go through that plan too as well,
yes,
to see where Brownsville's looking to want to grow.
Did you all look at Imagine Brownsville's?
No, sir.
No? Well, I think Imagine Brownsville and them need to start talking too.
Maybe.
So, like I said, we've been talking for maybe, 30, 40 minutes, and it's a workshop. I think there's still more talking that needs to occur.
I think this is more scientific than what Imagine Brownsville is doing. So I would rely on this, not on Imagine Brownsville, because...
No, it just, it goes...
Well, I think it goes hand in hand. They need to talk.
Well, excuse me, I think the growth was based on a master plan that the city has, based on the planning department. You want to say something? You want to say something?
Well, Mayor, just the land use assumptions is the same land use assumptions that we're using in Imagine Brownsville. So So they've been tied in, but.
You've been giving them that information?
Yes, but Commissioner Cisneros asked a question of can they go back to PNAS as a resource for information? Yes, you can. The kayak job is complete. They came up with worked with the consultants on a maximum number, which is that. But you can ask for resource information to help you determine what number it should be, because you're the ultimate decision makers, and the number will be decided by this commission. But you can ask any kind. You can ask the staff, PUB staff.
We've
PUB
already
board.
I talked to John right before. I think you're stuck on that number, right? That's what it is.
Well, that's fine.
Is that what it is? Either we adopt that number or we cut projects.
Right.
It's not John's number, it's the master plan's number. Now, we have a veteran here, and I want to call her a veteran because she was in the first kayak committee, and she survived and got on the second kayak committee. Would you like to say a few words, Madam Chairman? Leanne Greer. Welcome to our chambers, and thank you for the work you've done for the citizens of Brownsville by serving on the kayak committee. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. I found out today that I was first appointed to this committee in July of 2005. Before that, I spent 4 years on the PUB Consumer Advisory Panel. So I was fairly well versed in PUB matters when I came to this committee. So this is the second time we've been through it, and people keep saying, recommend a number. The number is 3486. $200,000 or more says that's the number. The kayak's purpose was to oversee the process and, as laymen, not engineers, only real estate or interested people, oversee the process, understand it to the best of our ability, and come to you with a number. Now, that's our job, and we've done it. There are some things that come to you with experience, and that is that PUB is a business, as the city is a business. They have a job to do, and it costs money to do it. And sometimes the money is mind-boggling, but nevertheless, the job has to be done. These projects will have to be done, and it will cost money to do it. Now, the question for you is, do you adopt this number and put more burden on new development, or do you not adopt a number and put more burden on the ratepayers? It's very easy, because you can raise rates by $1 and you instantly produce $50-some thousand a month in income. You can put this, you can get 10 new houses and you're going to get $30,000. So it's a difficult choice, and I understand that it's difficult, and I understand that these economic times are very difficult. And our job is not to tell you what the number should be. If you want somebody to make a recommendation for a number, you have to appoint a different committee that can look at all the things and say, this is what we would recommend, because that's not our job. People on this committee have opinions, and they will be perfectly willing to voice them at any time. But I think you just have to know that the job falls on you, and you have to make the decision. And it has been a great pleasure being on this committee. I have learned so much, and I have enjoyed it a lot. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Ms. Greer. Mayor, we also have another member of the kayak, Mr. Mark Esparza. I want to recognize him and thank him for all of his time and efforts that he's also provided, as well as the other members.
And we want to recommend all the members, recognize all the members for their work. And I know it was not an easy task. And I want to say something to the developers and everybody else here. As mayor, I'm not the mayor for one particular group of people, the citizens of Brownsville. I have to look at things as to what's best for the overall good of the community, not just for one particular group or one individual. My recommendation for the healthy growth of our community is to do the right thing, to adopt what the professionals have come up with as the number to adopt to meet that future growth. I think not to do so, I think wouldn't be fair to the overall best interest of the community and the citizens, because somebody's going to be have to pay it either through rates, or we have to cut back and not allow the city of Brownsville to grow as it's supposed to grow. And I think that would be even worse for our community, because we need to meet the challenge by providing the infrastructure to meet healthy growth and not have to react like we've been reacting in the past and not maintaining our system, and to where it got to the point to where we're having the highest rates in the region and so forth. I don't want to go back to that. I want to look to the future, that we can adopt a responsible plan, and it can be adjusted later on. If the growth is not there, they can come back to us and say, look, the growth is not there, and we can lower rates. I think we can do that instead of ignoring and killing the growth before we even have the chance to fulfill its potential as they should. So the recommendation is by me is that we adopt this rate.
Mayor, let me ask, why would we want to go to the maximum allowable amount when we already see that the growth has slowed and the economy is hurting?
If you're asking me the question you're asking me the question, I will answer. It's because this is the master plan that came out with, taking into account what already exists. But in order to meet that future growth, which is, I think you said 50,000 within the next 10 years, rounded numbers,
Yes,
which I think is conservative. It really is, because a lot of things could happen here that would change that for the good. And I think, like for instance, we're bringing an airline from Dallas. Hopefully we'll bring Amtrak. Hopefully we'll bring a Mexican airline. Hopefully we get the Weir built. Those are the factors that will drive some of the growth of this community. And I like to believe in the positive. Those things are possible. They're going to happen, and these numbers are conservative. Therefore, I believe that we best would serve the community by going by the professionals. We're not professionals. We're not engineers. And this is what they're recommending based on a 10-year projection. So to focus on the immediate, well, yeah, we're going through hard times right now. But that's not going to be the way it is. So right now, nobody's going to be hurt by this number. There's no growth right now. There's not going to be any connections right now. Until the market improves, then you're going to see boom, and you're going to come back and try to correct it, and you're not going to be able to correct it. And you're going to be strapped with raising rates because we did not adopt a responsible plan now.
Does this model also reflect on our commercial building?
Yes.
It sure does, yes, sir.
Okay.
That was the purpose of the equivalent service units.
So in essence, the 3486 would also be used for residential and for a commercial?
Multifamily, commercial, everything.
But it would, a component of that 3486, because then you have to apply that to the specific meter that's being requested.
Correct.
So that number would change, but the basic number is the 3486, yes, sir.
The deciding factor would be the meter or meters being used by the commercial?
Absolutely,
versus
yes,
the
sir.
residential. Thank you. That's my question. Thank you.
I've got one other question. We're talking about the impact fee at 3486, and if we actually build all the infrastructure that you have as far as your 10-year plan goes, you're going to have to raise rates anyway, because the impact fee, is my understanding, only has to do with new infrastructure, correct?
It does not cover operations of that.
That would be maintenance, sustainability, etc.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So if you're going to build more, you're going to grow more,
But
your
you're
rates
also
are
going to have a bigger rate base to cover that as well.
Well, and that's part of the issue.
That offsets that, yes, sir.
So it's not going to, just
But-
by in placing or inputting this number, you're not going to cut down on raising rates.
And the cost of doing business, CPI, as things are just the cost of fuel, electricity, those kind of things, as they go up, you have to recognize that as well. That's correct.
Okay, so this is just simply
it's just
allowing you to have access to
infrastructure.
more funds.
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to correct that. This is to pay for the future growth. Let's keep separate the operations.
Pays right. It pays for the infrastructure to get there.
Let's correct that, because this is supposed to be...
Well, wait a minute, why don't we let him correct that? Because I think it was my question.
Excuse me. This is supposed to recoup the cost, okay, for the future growth, completely separate from the operations.
It does,
Wait a
well, I
minute.
thought that's what we said. It doesn't take into account operations.
It does not take into
or
account
maintenance,
operations, right?
But it places all the infrastructure in place to
What
serve
is it?
that growth.
Okay. And
However, as your rate base comes on, you have new customers paying into that. You have an increase in revenue because you have an increase in new customers. So your PUB is going to see an increase in revenue because you have new customers on the system.
well, what you're hoping is that as your infrastructure or as your population increases, you're going to have more rate payers. But you're going to have, if you put out the lines, et cetera, that you're going to have, you're going to have to pay for that. And that money's going to come directly from the impact fee, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Which impact fee comes from new ratepayers. So
Well, it comes from hookups, which could be speculative in nature as well, correct?
when you issue the meter to build, as far as the developers go, if they're building speculative, then yes, sir, that's the case. But
Nobody's
that's
building
the business
speculative right now.
decision until they have them, and that's why you review this as well, because to the point that it's not occurring, the growth is not occurring, then you scale back on that.
Okay.
But
And-
you build it to serve new growth. You build it with the intention that you're going to get the new ratepayers.
Okay. And you would agree with my comment that this impact fee does not cover future maintenance or sustainability of the new areas that you put this infrastructure in, correct?
I agree that it's not intended to do that. It's intended to cover the infrastructure. But the new customers you add, again, the new customers
Would
that you
offset
add
it.
when you build that, offset that.
That would offset it, but then it becomes a question of, are you going to have enough of an offset to cover all of your costs as you continue to grow, correct?
That's a matter of whether or not the rates are set correctly now.
Well, and
So-
that's another issue, right?
Yes, sir, that's another issue.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Just for the layman's term. Bottom line, I'm a homeowner, and I pay rates, and my rates have gone up because of having to subsidize this impact fee, where 98% of this impact fee is currently being paid by the ratepayer, all of us. What the people at home and the people I talk to want to know, if we raise this impact fee to where it is, we're still going to pay the same rate we're paying right now, but we may not have to go up so much in a year from now as far as when we have to raise rates. And when you say we have to raise rates, it just kills me because I'm not going to be for it anyway. So bottom line is, people at home like, why is the burden being put on me? If Charlie Cavler wants to buy a new home in the north side, let him pay the impact fees. Let him pay his impact fee.
And
Why is
that's true.
me living in Llano Lakes having to pick up through my rates to pay for his new house? What do you say to those people?
That is purely the purpose of an impact fee, to make the new growth pay for itself. So the ratepayer does not bear that burden.
Okay, and let's be clear also. We were paying the ratepayers were paying 97%, okay, of the development, okay, and the developers were paying 3% with a $250 fee,
Right.
okay. Now with this recommended rate, what's the percentage? Is it 67-33 as it was a couple of years ago, or what is it? Do you know?
Mr. Mayor, I honestly don't have the answer to that
So I
now.
mean, the point is that even adopting this rate,
They'll still be sharing some of the burden.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
sir.
ratepayers are still sharing some of the burden for the future growth.
Right.
Okay.
Obviously not near as much,
But
but
the
it's still be
minority
there.
share, is still the developers,
Yes, sir.
not the citizens.
They pay
Citizens-
33%.
Yeah.
Developers pay 33, we pay
Well,
60.
yeah, exactly. But, so the majority share will be paid by the citizens, right? The majority share will be paid by the citizens, and the minority share will be paid by the developers, which should be a fair and balanced rate to keep ensured the future growth of this community. Because if not, we have to cut growth or raise rates.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Very simple. Do you know, John, what the percentages would be with this rate? But it is still the minority share by the developers and the majority share by the citizens. Okay.
And just one more point to make for the people at home that ask me these questions. By putting the impact fee at 3046, does my rates go down? No.
No, sir.
And people need to be clear of that, because people keep telling me, my rates are going to go down. If you put it at put it the maximum number, my rates will go down. Give us a break, Charlie. Give us a break from our utility bills. But we got to make sure everybody knows out there that your rates aren't going to go down. You're not going to see a lesser bill on your utilities because we use that number. All that number does is keeps us from raising rates a lot higher a couple of years from now or a year from now. And
If you said-
I think we need to make sure that gets in the paper, because so there's a big misconception out there that if we end up hitting these developers the hardest we can by getting this number, and that our rates are going to go down and now we're going to have a break. That's not the case, and we need to make sure we send that message out that you're not going to get a break on your rates, even if it's at $6,000.
If you sat here, did nothing, built nothing new, the cost of operation is still the cost of operation, and that's what goes into your rates. If you charge the full amount, the cost of operation is still the cost of operation, and that's just what your rates are.
We're not giving any refunds right now, right?
We're not giving them right now, no, sir.
But let's be clear also, that if we do nothing, we either break the system, raise rates, or kill growth.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Yes,
by
sir.
raising rates, you're hurting the citizens of Brownsville.
Yes.
They can't afford. We are one of the poorest cities in the nation, and have one of the highest water and wastewater rates. Okay, and to continue to ignore this and continue the 97% subsidy, 97%, almost 100%, will either break the system or force us to make up that difference by raising rates, or say we're not going to service any future growth.
Yes, sir, that's your options.
Did any of these infrastructure projects that you're talking about for your land use, was that submitted for the stimulus package, or was any of those?
I don't know the answer.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Richard, one more question. I just want to say, someone alluded to the numbers are conservative, but we haven't talked about conservation. When Ms. Shank was up here and I asked whether anything in terms of the figures that were thrown up there, if anything had to do with conservation and looking at reduction in terms of households of their usage of water, that wasn't in. That was the maximum allowable, whatever water people use, that's it. No plan of being conservative from PUB to the community is in place. So to say that it's either raise or raise, I disagree. I think we can be conservative, try to ask folks to or mandate them to scale back and see where we can cut some of that money that's being asked, or part of that growth that's being determined in terms of the projections.
What happens there is when they developed theirs, it was based upon a historical per capita.
Right.
Here's what it is. Now, what will occur to the extent that you have a conservation plan in place, you cut usage, therefore, obviously, you cut demand. Once you have that, now, it can push off those needs, but that's not the case. That's not how they can plan now. They have to plan on the way it's actually being used and what's actually happening with your system.
I'd like to just make a comment on Brownsville's per capita water demands.
Please step up to the mic.
Thank you. Shay Rolson, for those of you who weren't here, but the Brownsville's per capita water demands are quite low compared to state averages. In fact, the TCEQ cited the system for not having adequate treatment capacity according to a 0.6 GPM per connection requirement, and we were able to show, based on historical usage, that Brownsville only needs to provide 0.4 GPM per connection in order to have adequate redundancy and capacity. So in terms of your ability to reduce your demand based on conservation, your demands are already quite low per capita.
So then why are they saying that the number's so high then?
I'm sorry?
I mean, it was mentioned that why are our rates so high for water and wastewater? If you're telling us that the consumption has been significantly low, so then why are we saying that we got such a high rate?
Go ahead.
It's because you're funding everything. All of your growth has been funded through rates. Hasn't been funded through impact fees or anything.
And that's what we want to avoid now.
That's
exactly
the
why. That's exactly why it's so important to accept this rate, because if not, we're going to go back to what we were doing before, putting all the burden on the citizens of Brownsville. Like I said, if we adopt this rate, this is the maximum allowed. We can't go higher.
Right.
Okay? In a year from now, if we look like we're not going to do the projection in capital improvements, we can always come down. But we can't go up once we kill this number today.
That's right.
We can always go up, come down in a year from now, but we can't go up now.
Commissioner Camarillo, if we had done what you're suggesting, progressive increase, if we had done it 20 years ago, I can see where it would have some effect. But we're 21 years behind at $280 per lot. And suggesting that we do it progressively from starting today, it's not going to work. Then,
well, Commissioner, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm merely looking at what's being said and being produced. I think we have time to consider all the other factors, but I don't think I've suggested anything. I just want to hear and pose the questions that we need to pose, and ultimately see where that leads us to.
I think basically the developers that build over 100 homes, and I'm talking about these homes that cost $30,000 for them to build, and they end up selling it for like $70,000. Those are the developers that are, some of them are here. They're the ones that are like, man, if I build 100 houses, my impact fee is going to be my upfront money. And they probably can afford it because some of them are well off. But as far as somebody who builds a house, like a local contractor who builds one house or two houses a year, this impact fee doesn't affect them at all.
It's passed on to the buyer.
Yeah, if I'm going to build a $180,000 house, if I'm going to put $3,000 into an impact fee over 30 years, it's pennies, it's nickels. But the ones that we can be heard, and I'd like to hear from a developer. If Renato Carlos is in the room, do you want to say something on this? Or Mr. Simmons, do you want to say something on behalf of the developers? You want to talk on the mic because it won't come out on TV. People won't be able to hear you on TV. You got to talk to a mic.
You open the door.
Well, I am Neil Simmons, and I am one of those rich developers that you say. Yeah. And we were doing quite well until about a year ago. We were. And
but everybody's having a hard time.
Yeah, today it's another picture. We've got 300 vacant lots, fully developed, and no market for them. And we are building today at the rate of about 3 houses a month. And we are the largest builder in Brownsville. The thing, though, that is not being said here, and I thought we were supposed to be able to talk next week, I think it was, is that we are projecting this on a 2% growth. And that's 1,000 houses a year. we're doing about 400 a year in Brownsville. So this projection is 60% overstated. Another thing that you need to take in consideration, you're going to depend on Ray Cardenas and myself. We're the only two that's really left in the business. You cannot, either one of us cannot go to the bank and borrow a nickel on a lot or on a house. Everything I build is with my own money. And you would think someone as successful as you say I am would have unlimited credit at the bank, but it's not that way. And you need to check and find out for yourselves. The thing that, and I just told John, I said, John, get up there and tell them the truth. And John needs to get up here and explain to you what's going to happen. The one thing that's going to happen, you've got a projection of putting in the improvements, and only a portion of it is going to be paid through impact fees. The rest of it is going to have to be paid by the ratepayer. Now, if the ratepayer is paying enough today to pay for those improvements, you're not going to have to go up on the rate. But you need to ask John Brusiak if he's going to be able to take it out of the rates that he's collecting today and do the scope of work that's being projected in order for you to get at us as developers with an impact fee. We are not, for the next 3 years, and y'all mark this down and it's probably being recorded, we are not going to give you any impact fees to be really planned for to retire a debt like you're talking about here. And so what's going to happen is you're going to end up looking to us, and Ray Cardenas and myself are not going to give it to you because we don't have the market. It's not here.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
Let's say we don't do anything. Let's say we do nothing.
John.
Okay? We do nothing. Let's say we do nothing.
Charlie. Bring John.
How will you feel when you want to open up a subdivision and we can't provide the service?
Look, I have been putting in, and Ray Cardenas too, we put in our own lift stations, our own lines. We had to do all the extensions. We're paying water rights.
So you build your own sewer plant to meet your needs?
No.
That's what you're saying?
No. Look.
Who should pay for it then?
If we had done this...
No, who should pay for the sewer plant to meet your needs?
Okay, we should do it. I'm not saying this shouldn't be done. I'm just saying that you need to look at your position as a commission here and as a mayor and be sure you're taking the right step if you're going to impose this total plan on ourselves, PUB, and the ratepayer, because we are not going to pay for it. It won't happen. Is there any other questions?
So if you're not going to pay for it, if we were to adopt this, you're saying that's not enough. So then it will be worse if we don't adopt this. That's what you're saying. It will be worse if we don't adopt this. You're going to kill the growth of this city. The one thing that you need to have someone tell you, if someone decides they're going to build a restaurant, what's it going to cost them to hook up that restaurant? If they go in with a 2-inch line, you're not looking at $35. You're looking at something like $15,000 or $20,000 to hook up a restaurant.
Mr. Simmons. Yeah, but they pay that in San Antonio and in Dallas.
Mr. Simmons.
I beg your pardon?
They pay that up the state anyway. They'll pay that in Dallas. They'll pay that in San Antonio. They'll pay that in Corpus.
Well, they don't pay it in the Rio Grande Valley. You don't. Our competitors in the Rio Grande Valley, McAllen and other cities, they're not paying.
With all due respect, Mr. Simmons, we have spent a lot of money. The city of Brownsville.
I beg your pardon?
We have spent a lot of money on studies. And you talked about, you mentioned the word, tell the truth. Here's an impact fee study. This is the truth. This is reality. Who is not telling the truth here?
Look.
Well, here it is. I'm sorry. You can have a copy, sir.
I have a copy. Let me tell you what it is.
My question is, what are we going to do to the small business owner?
You have an extension from Paredes Line Road all the way to the port. That's dreaming. There's nothing there. Not one house.
But we're looking at a 10-year plan. We're not talking about...
That's right.
We're looking at a
That's
10-year
right.
plan.
Absolutely.
And we got to look at the future growth. Do we want to kill growth? You keep saying we're going to kill growth with an impact fee, and we didn't kill growth. The recession killed growth. We're not responsible for you not selling lots and that you invested your money in buying and developing subdivisions. With all due respect, I mean, this is a setback for everybody, not just the developer that can't make money right now, but the realtor can't make money. The real estate appraiser like myself cannot make money. The banker cannot make money. That has nothing to do with the impact fee. Nothing at all.
Look, you can put any amount you want, okay?
We're never going to catch up. We're not going to make it up. But I think 21 years, you folks, all developers, I'm not, have...
Let me tell you, had you put
Have
$2,000,
taken
$3,000 that
advantage.
he's suggesting, you wouldn't have any growth.
No, but
You
we
wouldn't
don't
have had any growth.
We don't have growth, Mr. Cardenas. We
What's
don't
that?
have growth right now. And it's not because of impact fee, because the impact fee is $280 per lot. We don't have growth because of, we're in a
Well, you
recession.
don't take into consideration, we do the extensions, we do everything except pay $280 to me. That should be used for improving
I'm not an engineer.
the
sir.
sewer plant.
Mr. Cardenas, I'm
And
not
you
an
still have the same
engineer.
sewer plant you
These
had
folks
30
are-
years ago.
These folks are engineers. They have studied this thing. Don't blame it on Mr. Brusiak.
I'm not blaming anybody.
Here is the report. It's black and white. Or color.
Have you gotten credits from PUB? I've seen checks made out
Let me tell
to
you,
to your company.
their report, and you can ask this man, their report is
I- I-
based
my question.
on what PUB gave them. They didn't do their job. They didn't come here to find out what was needed. They asked PUB what they needed.
Mr. Brusiak, did you give them the correct figures or not? You did. Okay, there's your answer, sir.
John, you know.
But John, what Ray is trying to say is that John produced the scope of work to be done. They did not do it. John furnished that to them. And so John came up. John is the man that can stand right here and tell you, John, come on up, where we stand. You need to have John tell you, and he'll tell you the truth.
But let me ask one thing. With all due respect, Mr. Simmons, let me ask you one thing. With all due respect, when we were at our peak and you were selling houses and lots and all that, did you make money, or did you lose money? You made money.
I mean, that's
And there was no complaint. There was no
Why
complaint.
don't you ask us how much we invested in the hope that we make money? We
That's good.
invested
That's
millions
good.
of dollars hoping we could make
That's
some money.
capitalism. That's capitalism where you invest and you're entitled to make money. Nobody's going to begrudge you that.
So why are you saying that then?
Because it's been lopsided. 97% is being paid by the citizens of Brownsville to where they subsidize you so you could make money. Now, what's the return? What's the return?
Let me tell you here.
What's the return of their investment? What's the return of their investment? Higher rates?
Let me tell you.
Is that the return?
Let me tell you this. Whatever impact fee you put in there, we pay half, and the ratepayer pay the other half.
You want to do that? You want to go half-half? If you want to do that,
I don't want to go
we'll change
half.
that number
The
to go up to
395
$6,000.
tells you have to charge the. We only pay for half.
No, but if you were to pay half and half, you would probably pay $5,000, and the ratepayers would have to split up the $5,000. Because right now, if it's similar to what last time, what's being proposed is 33% for developers and 67% for ratepayers. So the majority will be covered by the ratepayers still.
The ratepayer's going to pay 50%.
Let John just told me we're going to have to raise the rates, but we don't know how much.
Right. We
Now
don't.
tell 'em, John.
I mean, we've been saying that we're going to have some rates to go with these impact fees. We'll present them at later commission meetings. To make it work, it's not all, and I think the commission has said that, and the mayor, that a lot of it's going to be paid by the ratepayer.
And
a
this
lot
is
of
not
it,
the first time you have mentioned that, Mr.
Right.
Buziak. You're not lying. You're telling the
right.
truth.
We are going to have rates. If we don't have the rates or the fees, then we'll have to cut back. But we don't know what those rates are. We'll have them in future meetings before you make a decision on the fee. Then it's a decision on what you want to adopt. But it will be rates, and it will be.
If we don't adopt this, the rate's going to be astronomically higher.
That's why the rates are high now.
Yeah, and you know what I think?
We've had a small impact fee historically.
And you can see a little example of this. I mean, past commissions, way before us, it's been political. And we shouldn't make it political. And is 3486 the number? Maybe it is. Maybe we can come up. There's always room for negotiations, but we got to take the politics out of this issue, man. And that's what it's become. For the last 26 years,
We've got to do
developers
what is
have been able to get a hold of certain commissioners and stick to their grounds. Look, we had the solution. We had the solution in 2007. We had an ex-commissioner. I won't mention his name because everybody knows his name. Played his politics and put it back on the agenda. Changed it from when it was 2133, where Sally Arroyo came up with that number. And I still thank her to this day for that number because it was a reasonable number and it could have got us right off at a start. But politics played a big hand on why it was changed and why we had to pay $850,000 for studies to come back to this day. Because of politics.
And we lost millions of dollars because we didn't adopt nothing. The point is, we invested, the citizens of Brownsville invested in a study, several studies, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they still come up basically with the same thing. We're not the experts, we're not the engineers, but we have a responsibility to protect the citizens and be fair to future growth and developers. We're the last ones that want to kill growth, because we want the city to thrive and prosper. And but it's important that we listen to the experts who have come up and they're paid to do this. And if we ignore their expertise, I think we're being irresponsible.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
You were, I think the comment was made that y'all gave them the scope of work that was put into their study, correct?
For the projects and the growth, yes.
Okay. And when you considered what your scope of work would be, did you consider the economic impact of that scope of work on the community, or was it simply the dollar amount that would be needed to fund your scope of work?
Yeah, we didn't look at the economic impact.
So you looked at it within a vacuum of, this is what I need to make...
To serve the load that we have in the community.
Okay, but so basically you looked at this in a vacuum without looking at any of the economic factors, any other issue other than, this is what I want to build, I want to build it in 10 years, this is what it's going to cost me, and this is how I get there.
Based on the growth projections.
Based on the growth projection, which the growth projection at that time would have been what?
Well, we based it on 2%.
Okay, and what is the growth projection now?
Well, we've been dropping. We're down closer to 1.
Okay, so we're already down within
1.5 to 2.
Or less.
1.5?
No, it's about 1.5 per PUB.
For PUB at this point? Okay.
Yeah. But again, that's over a 6-month period, not over...
Right, we don't know how far we're going to go as far as the economy goes and what else is going to happen within the next 6 months. So this is just kind of where we are right now since September of last year.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
Go ahead, Mark.
Can I say a few words, Mayor?
Sure.
Mayor, Commissioners, Mark Esparza, a member of the Kayak. A couple of issues I'd just like to comment on that I just was hearing right now. One with, I guess I'll start with what Mr. Simmons was saying, that we're really down right now. But this is kind of what Mr. Brziak was just saying. This is a 10-year plan from a land use assumptions. I mean, key word being assumption. And while we may be down to 1% right now, hopefully in 4 years, 5 years, we're back up to 4% or anywhere else. And over the long run, we may end up hitting that 2% that we set when we were having our meetings over the last, year and a half. As far as the number and comparing it to the previous study, it's actually a coincidence that it's pretty close to the same, because we've actually had many differences from the previous study to the current study. One being we went from a 5-year plan to a 10-year plan, doubled the amount of time.
That was a request of the developers. They wanted a 10-year plan, so we gave them that.
Actually, I don't know who, because by the time I was on it, it was already switched to a 10-year plan. Another change was we were at a 4.5% growth rate. Through our meetings with public comment, developer comment, PUB, Black and Veatch, all the input, we actually reduced that down to the 2% that we have in the current land use assumption. And we base that on hoping that over a 10-year period, we're going to have our downs and our ups. Another difference from the first study to this study is that we included financing. That wasn't even included in the last study. And you saw the numbers, it added an additional $18 million. We actually cut quite a few projects out that, brought the actual, I think the number, I'm trying to remember right now, $53 million, I think it was, and then added in the financing and everything else. The last plan, I believe, over a 5-year period was $85 million, if I'm not mistaken.
And no financing.
With no financing.
See, this go around, because it was stretched to a 10-year plan, we were looking at true cost. That's what we were after, this go around.
Right. And so basically there are a lot of differences from the first plan to the second plan. We come up to this number. Now basically, I mean, there's still many other costs, as we've been hearing about maintenance, operation, the other portion of the capital improvements that aren't impact fee related, that are going to be paid for by rates. No doubt about it, no question. The only issue before us right now is that number. The amount of money that number came from, $3,486. And two options. I mean, actually 3 options. Put it all to the ratepayer, put it all to the developer, or figure out something in between, or some other, to where both of them are doing it.
Yeah,
now,
this number doesn't put it all on the developer, though. It makes the developer pay 33%.
Of the impact fee related cost, that would be all to the developer. But it's not all of the total CIP, the total capital improvement plan, was over $200 million. Then we took the impact fee related portion of that, and it was about half of that, about $107 million. Then from that, we had to pull portions of it out because it was over a 15-year plan, and we could only do on a 10-year plan. That was the 66% you were seeing.
Right.
We can only look at a 10-year plan, not 15. So if all this infrastructure that was going in would actually cover beyond 10 years, we had to pull out only the amount for the 10 years. That took it down to the $53 million. Now that's the amount we're talking about.
If you remember, we also included, we've already taken out and included the first $30 million to the ratepayers.
Right.
On this
Something else that we took out. And so basically, I mean, that's what we're down to. I mean,
very well said.
I mean, and something else I wanted to add that I haven't, this is a hot potato. Nobody wants to touch it. I mean, it is political, and I appreciate your comment on trying to get the politics out of this. But we had some interesting presentations from PUB that I actually wish they'd step up and make some of those presentations. I know that John just said we don't know what rates could be or how much they'd have to go up. But they gave us some presentations that were fairly interesting that, I don't want to speak for the rest of the kayak, but were actually quite shocking to us as the amount that they would have to go out. And when I say shocking, it was we were expecting to hear, huge numbers, but they actually were not that huge. And I think the reaction of the kayak was interesting to see. I'm hoping that they'll actually step up and present this to you all so you all can balance whether or not putting a little bit to the ratepayer and a bit to the developers as a compromise. And those are my comments. I hope that somebody will grab this hot potato and step up. But I appreciate your time, and any questions of me.
We appreciate your service, and I think you said it very well. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Joe, next.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. Joe De La Fuente as well, one of the members of the Kayak Committee. And I speak here on my personal, I'm not here on behalf of the Kayak Committee, but just my observations and what I've learned through this committee. I'm one of the newest members, so I've learned quite a bit in a little amount of time. A couple of points. I do want to thank the developers for coming here. They've been doing this at all of our meetings, and I appreciate that. I appreciate all their input. I appreciate them pointing out those important factors to us, because otherwise we're swamped with about 2 inches of documentation that we have to go through every time we've met, and all their input is very important. They've been at this for a long time. Very important to remember that that is the maximum allowed amount that they've come up with. We as a committee, I'm not sure that we're charged with recommending to you. We've overlooked at their studies, we've heard the presentations along with PUB. That's the maximum allowed by law. Doesn't mean you have to go there. What Mark was talking about earlier about the rates, I really do feel that you guys need to see that presentation that was given to us about 3 meetings ago. It opened up our eyes. The rates will be going up whether or not we do this impact, whether it stays at the current 290 or whether it goes to the maximum. It'll go up a significant amount. I won't say any numbers, but it's about $20, $30 a month for each one of us. And I have a couple of accounts, not just one, so it'll affect us. But I'll let PUB bring up that number, but it's a significant amount. If we were to stay at the lowest, low or even current amount, that amount would be about the same. We're talking minimal amount of the increases we're going to absorb, all of us as a whole, rather than the minority that's going to be hooking up to these consumer meters. These consumers that will be paying this fee, it's a consumer, and it's the lower end of the income people, not the higher end. So this $3,400 is it's a lot of money for them, and they don't have $3,400 in their pocket today. They barely sometimes have the $100 down programs that these subdivisions have. They're not going to have it when they come hook up their meter. I think we should all as a whole pitch in to that, and then the rates we're going to increase anyway, so an extra couple of cents or $1, and I'm not sure what that formula is, as a whole would help this community grow a lot more than just going with the maximum here. Another issue I wanted to bring up.
Can I ask you something real quick? You mentioned that you're going to hurt the little guy, but you know what? These people build houses to make profit. Some of them make $30,000 off a house. Some of these smaller houses don't make $15,000 a house. So if you have $150,000 that you're making off whatever 100 houses or whatever, so they don't make $150,000, they make $120,000.
Well, they don't.
They have to decide whether they want to pass it to the little guy or eat some of it and still make a good enough profit to make a living. I mean, you know as well as I know. You're making the story like you're going to hurt the little guy. It's up to them if they want to hurt the little guy when they make 100 houses. Do they want to make $900,000 or do they want to make $700,000 profit?
Well,
that's what it comes down to.
The problem is that this impact fees, the consumer pays it when he starts to build his home.
If he chooses
they are
to
the developers.
He gets to decide whether he wants to sell the house or he can sell that house at that price.
We're running a little bit behind. Let Mr. De La Fuente finish here, please, because we are running a little bit behind.
Another point that was made this afternoon, that's when we come up with that figure, we cannot change it. I believe that is incorrect, and I can be corrected. From my understanding, our kayak committee will continue to monitor this every next 6 months, and we can make adjustments up or down. So that was brought up earlier, that we can never go up or down if we make a change. The number of installations is alarming. Of course, the decrease of the amount of people that are out building or seeking new permits today. So this amount, I mean, it could be $10,000, but if the growth is not there, and if we're not the growth is not there for all the million reasons that we talked about earlier, it could be back to $1. I mean, it's not going to help us bring any revenue.
One question though: if we don't adopt this number, and this number is to recoup the investment to put in place infrastructure for the growth, okay? If we don't do that, then we have to cut back growth. You want to see that?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is...
No, but now, do you understand that? Do you understand that if we don't, let's say we don't adopt this number, then PUB cannot put the infrastructure needed to meet the future growth in certain areas. Do you want to see that?
Well, no, I don't believe that's the point of it. That's still going to happen through the increase of rates.
Okay, well, the ratepayers have to pay that.
Yes.
But the commission says they're not going to raise rates. So if you don't raise rates, you don't adopt this, you have to kill growth.
The rates are going to be increased, from my understanding. I mean, they got to get increased.
You have to kill growth.
The PUB will tell you that. That isn't the plan.
There is no growth.
Okay, we are running behind.
Real quick, I think what we're not looking at, you guys are just looking at the building the homes. What we're not looking at is, say someone wants to start a business and they have to connect. What would be the local, the small business owner? We're going to put them out of business. They're not going to be able to connect.
How do you know that?
Start their business.
How do you know
No.
that?
And if we're not building homes and we're already in a recession, what's going to happen to the electricians? No, Mayor, it's reality.
No, it's not.
What's going to happen to the
What got us
electricians?
into trouble was the recession, was the housing industry,
Okay.
to where we made it so easy.
So obviously you're
for
not
people-
listening to everything, right?
You know what I think?
I'm asking,
I think
I'm
that what
saying-
got us in trouble is not raising this rate over the last 20 years and not taking the time
Yeah,
to look
that's
into
right.
it and not having a plan in place over the last
That's
20
right.
years. And now PUB's coming to us 20 years later saying, oh, we need $100 million to upgrade. I think that's what
right.
got us in trouble.
But it's not PUB's problem, it's our problem.
Well,
As
it's
commissioners,
everyone's problem.
the former commissioners and the mayors. You know, this is
We
not
gotta
about
look at
being
everything,
fair,
Charlie.
this
You
is
have
about
to
doing what is right, okay? It's not about doing what's
It's
fair,
doing what is right.
but doing what is right.
And you know what I like about all this?
And-
is that the people at home, Commissioner, get to see what's going on. In the past, there was no TVs, there's the papers, they were controlled, whatever. Right now, people get to see exactly what's going on and who's going to vote a certain way, who's going to protect whose interests, who's going to protect the people's interests. We all get to just be put on TV. So let's bring it on and let's see who makes the right decisions. And I'd like to end this workshop.
Okay,
Just as a reminder, next week on the 25th is the first public hearing.
Okay.
It's a special meeting only on this subject, so that's where the opportunity of people.
All right, thank you, Ben. Can we have a motion to adjourn to executive?
So moved.
Second.
They need to read
Motion
it.
second by...
They need to read it.
There's someone else like to say. She's
Va a
been
haber
waiting.
una audiencia, el otro...
She's
Okay.
been waiting,
Por
Mayor.
favor.
Yes, yes.
No va a dilatar mucho. Yo soy Lupita Torres, líder de Vale Interfaith. Y yo nomás quería comentarles que nosotros que pagamos agua y drenaje son los que hemos hecho crecer la ciudad. También este asunto se han estudiado 3 veces, se han estudiado estos asuntos. Entonces ya es tiempo de que los urbanizadores paguen su cuota. Nosotros somos los que hemos hecho crecer el pueblo. Entonces, como les digo, nosotros hemos estado detrás de estos estudios y son 3 los que se han hecho. Yo creo que ya es tiempo que tomen acción.
Gracias.
That's-
Can we have a motion and second? All in favor?
Aye.
There's no action.
To go
They need to read it. They need to read it. Hasn't been read.
Next week.
Next week. Why did you say next week to the workshop?
Look, we're running behind now. We're going to have it next year. Alex, okay, do y'all want to hear us?
No, it's not that they want to really, but...
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mira, I do appreciate what you're doing, Mayor. My name is Alex Resendez. And I appreciate what Mr. Atkinson, we've been against, but I appreciate what he said. The people of Brownsville are not going to buy homes. There's no money to buy homes, okay? It's like Chevrolet. Chevrolet says, give them trillions of dollars to build cars. Who's going to buy them? Okay? Mr. Cardenas, with all due respect, and Mr. Bruce Eck and the other fellows that are building, I mean, they're friends of mine. I mean, they're good guys, and they have invested millions of dollars for the growth of Brownsville. But suppose they build 20 homes right now, who's going to buy them? Okay? And I appreciate you trying to help the people not raise them, the rates, because people cannot even pay a speeding ticket. People do not have the money to buy homes. They can build all the ones they want. They're not going to buy them anyway.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, City Secretary.
Can we read the call, because we didn't have a quorum at the beginning, so that we can start? No, I have not. We just did the workshop.
Okay, so adjourn.
Let me read the call. Notice of public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a workshop and executive session and regular meeting on Tuesday, March 17, 2009, at 4:30 p.m., 5:30 p.m., and 6 p.m. in the Commission chambers on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas. Workshop, executive session item A, discussion pursuant to section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code regarding economic development. Executive session item B, consultation with attorney pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code regarding reasonably anticipated litigation.
I would move we go into executive session.
Second. A motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all, those who came for the impact fee workshop. Thank you for coming. Come next meeting. We're going to have a public hearing. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag, pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Let's pray. Father God, I just thank you and praise you for your love and understanding for each of us. I see in your word in Jeremiah 29:11 that you have a plan and a purpose for each individual here. I believe you also have a plan and a purpose for the city of Brownsville. And Lord God, I ask you to draw each of us close enough to your heart where you can reveal those plans to us. Help each of us to discuss our different ideas with respect to each other tonight. And we ask that your will be done here. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Mark.
Action on items discussed in executive session.
Consideration and action regarding a proposal for air service development.
Can I have a motion?
I got a motion
to...
to...
presentation.
Okay.
No. You want to say something?
Mayor, City Commissioners, this agenda item is about what you see on that chart. It's about the value of aviation to this community in terms of economic development, creation of jobs, creation of new business opportunities for this community. On this, the 80th anniversary of this community's airport, we request the City Commission to consider and act on a service agreement between American Eagle Airlines and the City of Brownsville. The agreement proposes for direct non-stop airline service between Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport and Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, with 3 round trips per day. That includes a morning departure at 7:15 a.m., an afternoon departure at 4:20, and an early evening departure at 5:25, as well as commensurate return flights at 10:55, 5 o'clock, and 9:30. The inaugural flight would begin on June 11th, and tickets for the flight would go on. The first flight would go on sale this coming Friday.
Wow.
In exchange for this service, American Eagle is requesting the City of Brownsville provide the following. First, a revenue guarantee in an amount to be agreed upon by both parties and currently under negotiations. No funding will be necessary if we will maintain 35 out of the 50 seats on each of the 50-seat RJ aircraft. Second, construction of ticket counters, offices, provision of training and ground support equipment. Third, foregoing of all landing fees, fuel flow fees, ticket counter rent, and baggage makeup charges during the 2-year period of the agreement. The city will still retain PFC revenue from the service at a rate of $4.50 per passenger over the period of the agreement. Why should the city consider the possibility of doing this? Because this is an opportunity to foster additional economic development for this community through the receipt of travel dollars from outside the community. Second, the airline opportunity keeps travel dollars by Brownsville citizens in Brownsville. The PFCs, for example, would normally be going to other airports if Brownsville citizens traveled outside this community. Third, because having 2 airlines at Brownsville South Padre Island International provides service to 2 different airline hubs. If weather problems prevent people from traveling to one hub, another is available. Fourth, because the ability of the airport to generate revenue to help offset the city's costs for the airport is dependent upon growth of the airport. Additional flights generate additional revenue in the form of PFCs, AIP funds, and so forth. Fifth, because the airlines promote the community in several ways, such as business travel, tourism, and so forth. Also because the citizens of Brownsville, South Padre Island, as well as the catchment area, need improved transportation service from Brownsville and improve access to other business market, particularly at this time. Our marketing studies through our Sabre consultants have demonstrated the viability of this service. The securing of this service is a City of Brownsville responsibility since the city owns the airport. The Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport has a history of being first in a number of ways, and this opportunity will be the first time that 2 airlines have serviced this community in 31 years. 1979, incidentally, was the year with the highest number of enplanements in the 80-year history of the community's airport. That's what 2 airlines do. The Airport Advisory Board met in a special session on Monday at the airport and unanimously recommends approval of the agreement as stated. The airport staff recommends that this agreement be approved by the City Commission, subject to finalization of the agreement between the attorneys of both respective parties. Should also be noted that we have began discussions, and they are looking very favorable with the GBIC for potential funding of the revenue sharing guarantee. I'll be more than happy to address any questions. I would also like to note my colleague, Mike Jones, is here with us this evening. Mike has been very instrumental in as well as our consultants in helping this deal get to where it is.
Mayor, I move that we approve this item pending contractual agreements with American Eagle and urging the citizens of the Rio Grande Valley and in Matamoros, our sister city, to fly Brownsville.
I second that motion.
Making your motion to authorize him to continue to finalize this contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Second that motion.
That'll work?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you,
all
and fly Brownsville.
Thank you, Mike.
What did.
Thank you, Larry. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Everybody at the airport board.
Okay, Commissioner's report. Commissioner Camarillo.
Sorry, Mayor. Real quick, I wanted to recognize the No Border Wall group in Gaza. I know they're going to be traveling to Washington, and wish them well in their efforts and they're part of the movement on fighting the whole border wall issue. I know the hard work that they've been doing as a group and as a whole is very, very powerful for the community, and I wish them well. I also wanted to just touch base on our in the whole No Border Wall deal, our visit in Washington with Congressman Ortiz and the DHS folks and CBP people. I thought it was a very, very constructive meeting. I want to thank City Manager and Mr. Willett and Mr. Chosey and everyone else who attended, Commissioner Troiani, Commissioner Garza, the Mayor, and Mr. Sam Morasco for everything that they've been doing to get us to this point. It was, I think, a major, major success in terms of being able to meet with our congressman prior to our Thursday meeting to debrief, to go over things that we need to be prepared for the following day. I thought that was extremely helpful. And then the meeting up to the actual meeting that Thursday with the DHS people, a group of 7 people were able to come up with strong, viable alternatives to the whole border wall. And I want the citizens of Brownsville to know that this group raised their voices against a temporary or permanent fencing structure in Brownsville. I think it should be clearly noted that that's what we did, that was our intent, and I think things went well. We ultimately don't know how far our efforts went. DHS is still reviewing that information with the DHS Secretary Napolitano, and hopefully soon we will hear something from the efforts that were made about 2 weeks ago. Again, I want to thank everybody who went. I think we made a strong, strong message up in Washington with our congressman who was there in our meetings with Denise. I think they came to bat for Brownsville, and you all should know that, and I really appreciate the congressman's help, and again, opening that door for us and ensuring and keeping up with the fight that we've all been fighting. And I want to thank all the individuals that were there with us at that meeting, because it is a new administration, a new mindset, hopefully a new way of thinking that the border wall issue is not the sole issue. And we did ask them to reevaluate the whole process. And hopefully with the new administration, they would again reevaluate their entire immigration policy. And to note that there's an opportunity in Bronzeville to be that Mecca center to study border issues for the entire country. It can start now. It's not something that can start 10 years, 20 years down the road. We can start today. And we let them know that. So I want to make that very clear, and I want to thank everybody for their input on the meeting. Last month, I held a cleanup on the west side. We went to the Ramireño area. It was very, very successful. We did parts of 281 and parts of Riverside. We did quite a bit. You know, we had dumpsters out there, and people were able to dump their materials that they wanted to get rid of. I appreciate all the volunteers, the juvenile probation people. I want to thank them for their efforts. They were out there in the rain, cleaning up and with their students. And I also want to thank the Southwest Key program. They were out there in the rain too, working and going through alleys and picking up bulk items that were in awkward places that normally our trucks wouldn't be able to go to. So I want to thank everyone for all the volunteers for their efforts. And finally, the River Bend, my River Bend residents, we've had some issues, and we brought this up at the last commission meeting. We're working together with Chief Garcia and Chief Perez to put together a meeting with our 911 folks, the Cameron County 911, and our friends from Los Fresnos and Port Isabel, that at times when Bronzeville's units are being serviced and or being used, they need to they service through an agreement parts of Bronzeville. And they recently they've had to service River Bend. There's been some issues with identifying homes because those homes are not known to people in Los Fresnos or the units in Los Fresnos, but we are working to correct that. And I want to make it very clear that, you know, safety and police, whether it be fire or EMS, is extremely important to all of us here, and we are working towards making sure that we won't have any future problems down the road with any of those issues. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Murillo. Commissioner Triani.
I just wanted to comment on, I think Commissioner Camarillo has already covered most of the issues on the DHS visit that we had talked about. I think it was a very good visit, and I think it was apparent that there is obviously a change in administrations and that they were at least willing to listen to us. Whether that's going to result in what we would like, which would be no wall, that only time will tell. As far as the legislative issues, I'd like to discuss or just make mention that recently there have been several bills that have been passed, or not passed, but have been submitted by our local representatives regarding disannexation of properties that the City of Brownsville has sought to acquire and has acquired over the past few years. These bills could potentially impact our ability to maintain our tax base, and they could potentially impact our ability to grow as a community. This is very important, and this is something that I think that as a community we should be aware of and that we should look into, specifically given the fact that our tax base and our ability to provide services to our community could be drastically affected. And those bills have been recently filed. They have not gotten out of committee at this point, but they are being worked on, and that is a concern. I think it's a concern to everyone that sits here in this commission chamber, and I think it should be a concern to everybody in the City of Brownsville. And with that, I'll conclude and look forward to a good meeting.
Immaculate Conception Church. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was one other item, and because it's not in my book, I didn't see that it had gotten on there. On a really bright note, June 8th, 2009 will be the 150th anniversary of the Immaculate Conception Cathedral. The cathedral is going to have an anniversary celebration. They are going to bring in clergy from around the country. The Oblates were very vital in founding the Immaculate Conception, and amazingly, the Immaculate Conception is actually older than St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. This cathedral is a Gothic-style cathedral. It's in downtown. I know that we have members of the clergy here in the room today, and it is a beautiful, beautiful building. It is part of our historic downtown. It is one of the gems of our downtown, and as many people know, Brownsville itself has probably the second most historic downtown area in the state of Texas, and we have something we can be very proud of right here in our community. It will be 150 years old in June 8th, and we're going to start the process tonight by setting aside some streets so that we can have that festival and that celebration. Thank you.
Can I add to that?
Nope. You're not on the agenda, but
I just want to say that church is something Brownsville has a responsibility to take care of. I don't see maybe we can guide the priest to tap into some of the monies that we have here in Brownsville to rejuvenate it, to revitalize it. Is there such anything we can do as far as with the city does?
We're not going to get into discussion here. Take it up with city manager afterwards, maybe. Presentations?
All right.
Thank you.
Employee of the month.
Mayor, members of the commission, please help me welcome Josefina Perez, the employee of the month for March 2009.
Ms. Perez. Congratulations.
Josefina is assigned to the health department. She's an animal technician at the Brownsville Animal Regulations and Care Center. She's been there since 2002. She's recognized for her diligence in caring for all the animals at the animal shelter. She goes beyond the call of duty. She's always assisting and helping us and making sure that newer employees learn the system and appreciate the responsibilities they have there. We have to constantly tell people that she's not eligible for adoption.
Congratulations.
We need her to stay with us.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's got a good ethic and a positive attitude, and we are very fortunate to have her at a location where we really are working to improve over the last few years. Of course, she gets the cap. It goes good with the uniform. And the pins recognizing her as Employee of the Month. And the Employee of the Month plaque, Josefina Perez, Brownsville Health Department, in recognition for outstanding services rendered to the city of Brownsville for the month of March and for this year. Of course, she's eligible for the Employee of the Year at our banquet in December. So congratulations.
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 Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you a Mr. Arturo Rodríguez, al señor Raúl Villarreal, a Arturo Martínez. Thank you for, amen.
No, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so thank you so much.
No, thank you for your hard work.
Thank you for your hard work.
Charlie, do they still take the employees out to lunch? And do we give them like a day off of their choosing for like a month?
Well, actually, Art made a boo-boo, so we should have recognized her at the beginning of the month. So it's not just lunch, but dinner on him.
Oh, okay. Well, that's better. That's even better.
Item 3.
Item 3, consent agenda items A through N.
Move to approve.
Second. The motion to approve is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 4.
Item 4, consideration and action to appoint one member to the Cultural Affairs Advisory Committee to fill an unexpired term.
Is that somebody's particular appointment, or is that just city council appointment?
I think it was Rick's, no?
It's my appointment. The only person that expressed interest from the contacts that I made was not residing in my district. So...
Who is it, though?
Again, that is
he
your...
hasn't submitted an application.
It's your appointment, so it's your option to make whatever appointment you'd like to make, Commissioner.
Okay. It's not a requirement to be inside the district.
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I would appoint Mr. Rosales Carin.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
He will fill out an application afterwards. Item 5.
Actually, I'm sorry, Mayor. Mr. Scarini was my appointment. He's already on there.
Oh, he's already on
Yeah,
there?
he was my appointment. I didn't. I said, hey, wait a minute.
that.
Apologize, Commissioner.
Okay, you have a motion
to remove. To remove my nominee.
You got a clone? Anybody else?
Rosendo's doing a fine job.
If it wouldn't trouble the commission, I will bring somebody, I'll
Move to
buy
table?
somebody, yeah.
So motion to table, and second, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, item 5.
Item 5, consideration and action to appoint or reappoint citizens to the Brownsville Citizens Advisory Committee.
Honorable Mayor, City Commissioners, I put on your desk 2 pieces of paper. One is the committee itself with the what commissioner appoints what person, but the terms will expire on August 09, so they still have this process to go. But if you pay attention to the long sheet, which is the attendance, some of the appointments or some of the committee members have missed the meeting. So if you can get together with them and tell them that the importance of attendance, or if not, replace them at the next meeting. So we can table this to the next meeting.
So moved. Move the table.
Yeah, move the table. Second.
Second, any discussion? All opposed? Carries. Next item?
Item 6. Item 6, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2009-007 to rezone from general retail V to general retail G for 1.005 acres out of Lot 1 of Clara Bennett subdivision located near Clara Bennett and FM 511.
Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners, this is for a small restaurant. It's located there at 511 and Clara Bennett.
What do they want to put there?
A little restaurant, little taco stand to go. So the Plans and Commission votes to approve this application.
Okay, this is a public hearing.
Move to close.
Second.
The motion closed, and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This is an action item.
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion approved, and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.
Item 7, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2009-008 to rezone from apartment F to apartment to medium retail G for Lot 2 of Las Palmas condominiums subdivision located near East Price Road and Old Port Isabel Road.
Let me ask, can we do 7, 8, and 9? They're all related.
They're all the same
They're all
piece
the
of
same
property,
property.
but different.
Okay, read 8 and 9, please.
Item 8, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2009-009 to rezone from apartment F to medium retail G, lots 3 and 4 of Las Palmas condominium subdivision located near East Price Road and Old Port Isabel Road. Item number 9, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2009-010 to rezone from apartment F to medium retail G for lots 16 and 17 of Las Palmas condominium subdivision located near East Price Road and Old Port Isabel Road.
Okay, this is the public hearing on items 7, 8, and 9. If anybody wants to come up and speak here for or against, please present themselves. Anybody for or against? Nobody? What is the staff recommendation?
Approved.
Move to close.
Second.
Motion to close.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion to close.
Move to
Carries.
approve.
Now, this is an action item on 7, 8, and 9.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and approved by Commissioner Troyani, and second by Commissioner Atkinson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 7, 8, and 9. Item 10.
Item 10 is public comment period.
Okay, can't see here. Alex Resendez, Mr. Reese, and Hilda Ledesma.
We're taking the other one first.
In that order, please go to the podium, Mr. Resendez. Mr. Resendez, you got 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Please do not direct your comments to any one individual in the commission.
My name is Alex Resendez. Got 3 minutes, huh? Okay. On the impact fee, you guys had some studies. That's wonderful. The guys that do construction of homes, they don't have to do no checking on how much they gotta pay. They just dictate. But the people of Brownsville, they have to go ahead. I hope you all in the impact fee do a form or something para que venga la gente. Regular people like me, the taxpayers, como dijo Mr. Atkinson.
We're having a public hearing.
You are?
Yeah.
That's good. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now?
That'll be the next meeting.
Oh, that's real good. Bueno, entonces that's it. My interest is in la gente, okay? There's some preachers that they want to pray for money. I want to pray for salvation of las almas, okay? For the people. Okay. The other one, I had already spoken to 2 commissioners. I'm not going to mention the names. ¿Qué van a hacer ustedes? What are you all going to do with the old 77 highway? You going to fix it? You going to plug it? Or you going to stop it? En el Academy, ahí te pusieron unos bumps. The old highway runs like that, parallel to the expressway or whatever we want to call it. But people cannot go in there, and there's 2 or 3 businesses that they complained to me. Dijeron, cuando vayas al city commissioner meeting, please say this, because my business is going down. I don't want to mention the names. They told me to mention the names of the little restaurantitos that are there, you know. I don't want to mention names. Pero they have lost a lot of business porque está cerrado el old highway y la gente cannot go in there and eat their tacos or their... I don't know if it belongs to one of your commissioners or which commissioner is in charge. I spoke to 2 commissioners. Now, that old highway used to be a wonderful highway when I was a young man. Era el old 77. Era lo único que había. That was the only thing that we used to have, the old 77. Now we got a big expressway. That highway, you either close it or do something with it porque it's full of holes. Los carros se quiebran. They're not working. Somebody's closed the road there para que no pasen. Todos los businesses, they're losing their business there. They're going around. I saw an accident there. And that's my 3 minutes. That's my concern. Do something with old 77 highway close to the Academy, or tell the state or whoever's in charge, or close it down, porque está lleno de pozos. That's it, fellas.
Thank you.
Lord bless you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Reese. Robert, if you get Mr. Resendez, maybe you can shed some light.
Commissioner and Mayor. You know, I think you all are putting a fast one on me today, because I saw the representative of Mr. Estrada in Hinojosa out here in the meeting. When you go into executive session, he's here no longer. Now, that is against the Open Meetings Act. That happened also, Mr. You-know-who, on December the 8th of last year, when Mr. Estrada was here. You also had him in closed session, executive session with him only.
He wasn't in there tonight.
Sir?
He wasn't in there tonight.
Who?
The fellow you're talking about. He wasn't in there.
I hope he wasn't in there, because if he was, you were breaking the law. If he was, you were breaking the law.
Okay.
He wasn't. And anyway. This is not right. The stadium, I read in the paper that the company is bankrupt and that they have a concession from the city of Brownsville that's also in the package for the selling. You know who that goes to? Charter, committee. We need to find out, and we need to get together, because you know, when we elected you all, we did not surrender our constitutional rights. We need to know what changes are going to be made on the charter and what recommendations the people, the electorate can make. And then we can reach a consensus, and then we can put it up for an amendment on the voting. But it's not just what you say. You cannot disenfranchise us. You need to get on the ball. Executive session, okay, already took care of that. But that impact fees, Mr. Simmons and Mr. Cardenas, Brownsville doesn't want to grow anymore. We cannot afford it. We have 55,129 and a half potholes in the city of Brownsville. We are under 150 policemen. 150 policemen to come up to par. We have no security for the citizens of Brownsville. What are you doing? What are we going to do? We need to change. That's what we need. We need a change. That's what we need. Because, you all laugh, and, when you all were running, your promises and all this, BS, and y que yo, y que quién sé qué, and we can be the first one on the agenda. I got your number. And you're going to run again. And I'll tell you what, you won't succeed this time, whoever you may be. Because, you have disrespect for the electorate.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Okay, Ms. Ledesma. Please, Ms. Ledesma.
Buenas tardes, Mayor,
Buenas
señores comisionados. Mi nombre es Hilda Ledesma, soy de la Iglesia San José y líder de Valley Interfaith. Quiero hablar sobre el asunto en la agenda de sueldos justos para su aprobación. Nosotros hemos trabajado con la ciudad de Brownsville para aumentar el sueldo mínimo a no menos de $8.50 la hora. El problema ha sido que cuando la ciudad contrata compañías, los trabajadores que tienen no reciben el mismo beneficio. Al votar en favor de la resolución, esta resolución propuesta, los trabajadores queremos que reciban el mismo, si no el mismo beneficio, de perdido el mismo sueldo. Por eso, a usted, alcalde, y a comisionados, Valley Interfaith les pide que voten en favor de esta propuesta. Gracias. Y
Gracias.
el tiempo que me queda, el señor Kraus va a hacer algo en inglés, por favor.
Gracias. Okay, gracias.
My name is Joseph Kraus, and I was asked to read this on behalf of Valley Interfaith. First, we want to address the issue of maintaining a higher minimum wage that is on the agenda number 13 this evening. Valley Interfaith has worked for the minimum wage for the city of $8.50. However, the problem has been that city contracts to other businesses have not had the guarantee of the $8.50 wage. And so we ask you to accept and vote for the resolution that when contracts are let by the city, that the workers from those corporations receive the $8.50 wage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of the public comments. Let's go to item 11.
Item 11, consideration and action authorizing the temporary closure of East 12th and 13th Streets between East Jefferson and East Adams, and East Jefferson and East Adams from East 12th to East 13th, from 4:40 p.m. to 9 p.m. on June 8th, 2009, for the 150th anniversary celebration of the Immaculate Conception Cathedral.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 12.
Item 12, consideration and action regarding compensation for the Brownsville City Attorney.
Mayor, I move to contract with Mark Saucy, PC, or any successor firm that he may enter with at the rate of $10,000 per month for the services of Mark Saucy as city attorney, and with no car allowance.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Okay. Any discussion?
And that's a flat fee, correct?
It's a flat fee, and it's what the last city attorney did.
Okay.
And he'd have to-
We're actually saving money.
Yeah, we'll be saving money the way we're doing it, I guess. It's a flat rate, yeah.
Is he going to be a full-time attorney?
Yeah, he's already been.
Okay, he's going to be a full-time attorney.
He's
And
already
the
been.
cases he's been representing Brownsville on will he be continued to be paid on?
No, I think you,
Say it, Mark.
There were a number of cases that I'm representing Brownsville on. The cases for any future work after this time, that would be paid as part of my salary and not as part of.
But the present cases, you will be continued to be paid on?
No,
No?
Mayor.
Okay.
No, Mayor. I wouldn't do that.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure, that's all.
And no
Okay.
car allowance,
actually
did you
mentioned
waive that?
yeah, he waived.
So he's a full-time attorney at $10,000 a month, and he will not be getting paid for the case he's currently working on for the city.
Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion?
Well, I know he's been on board since for the last, 2 weeks?
Yeah, he didn't
He's
get paid.
been doing a lot of work, and as far as, I'd like for it to be effective, retroactive, 2 weeks. Right?
I don't think you can make it retroactive.
No, actually, as much as I'd like to be paid retroactively.
We'll just leave it the way it is, the flat rate.
And frankly,
If you're satisfied, I'm satisfied.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Mark, I do want.
Mr. Sassi,
I want to, let me just, I want to congratulate you, and I do want to thank you because you have gone above and beyond for everybody here and the citizens of Brownsville. But
Thank you.
good luck and keep up the good work.
I would ask the commission for one more thing. I would ask that even though Mr. Sassi is not receiving a car allowance, that he be awarded a per diem in any travel that he has to do on our behalf, either to Austin or anywhere outside of the corporate city limits that he has to do, that he be given, extended the courtesy of a per diem mileage charge for any travel that he has to do on our behalf, either to Austin or anywhere else, with the use of his personal vehicle.
I will amend my motion to include that.
Well, I think all expenses should be paid, and he should be treated just like anybody else.
Any
who
other
travels on
employee.
behalf of the city. I think that's a given, I think. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 12.
Item 13, consideration and
13.
action on resolution number 2009-018 in support of maintaining a higher minimum wage requirement for all contractors doing work for the city of Brownsville.
Mayor, as has been stated by Ms. Ledesma, who was representing Valley Interfaith, they've asked me to help champion their cause, and I think this is the third time we've come back. I'm not the creator of the resolution, but through the work of Mr. Chosy and Commissioner Troani, we have tried to make this living wage a good, viable agreement for the city of Brownsville and for all those that do business with us. As some of you I've mentioned before, what this would do is this is asking that any contractor who is doing business with the city of Brownsville, we are asking them to compensate their employees $1.50 above the federal minimum wage. What we would be doing in turn through our purchasing department would be, if we would be creating a preferred vendors group. Being a part of the preferred vendors group is that they're paying the $1.50 above federal minimum wage. We would be waiving a bid bond. That does not mean that if that group was selected, that their performance bond and insurance to make sure that they're insured, if they're selected to do the job right, we still save the city. It's not, they're not being waived anything. We're not taking anything away from anyone, but they're put on a preferred vendors list. And I'd ask the commission for consideration on something that does not take away from what the city's doing, doesn't hurt the city financially, but it does promote, and we ask the city as we try to take care of our employees, that anyone who does business with the city of Brownsville take care of theirs.
Does UTB do this?
I don't know.
I have a question, Commissioner.
Well, let's have a motion, second, and then open up for discussion.
I move to table.
Well, I make the motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second the motion. to approve.
Okay, you made the motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion?
I'd like to hear from our city manager or city staff relating to this issue, because I think I've talked to some of the staff and they're hesitant about this, and I'd like, maybe you can enlighten us on things that you've told us on what it could do. I mean, it's like, I know the city pays $9, or how much do we pay an hour?
$8.50.
We pay $8.50. We go above and beyond, but to contract somebody who puts in a bid for, say, $300,000 for a paving job, whatever. I'm just bringing them $300,000. Now to say you got to pay your employees $8.50 or above when they're normally getting paid $7 an hour. Well, now the vendor's going to put in the bid for $600,000, and that's going to come out of our general
That's
fund.
incorrect, Commissioner. That's not
What
what
do you
this
mean
is
that's
about.
not
It's incorrect because that's not what this resolution is saying. That was the old resolution. As I've tried to explain to you and a few others, what this does is it creates a preferred vendors group. If you want to be a part of the preferred vendors group, you'd be acknowledging that we will pay $1.50 above the federal
So they're
hourly
gonna
minimum
get-
wage. Hold on. If you fall into that group, if you fall into that and you're there, we would be waiving a bid bond, but not the performance bond. Okay, so if you are selected, you still must be insured again. You're just saying, wow, you're preferred, versus you're not preferred, but this is what I do, and this is my bid. It's not costing the city of Brownsville $1.
I'd like to hear from our city manager what this would do.
Commissioner Coney wants to say something. You want to get up here? You don't have to get up down there.
I'm going to address the city commission as a small business owner and somebody that bids within the city, not as a city commissioner. I currently have 7 full-time employees in my business, out of which they all make above the minimum wage. But along with owning a business as a contractor for different entities, you have to take into consideration that you affect not only the pay, you affect the matrix of the makeup of a business. If I have 1099 employees, which I used to do in the past, they were contract labor. They'd get a 1099 and they're responsible for their taxes. But we have recently upgraded our business, taken our employees into consideration, and we offer them a W-2 compensation, where I, as a business, intake, as many of our contractors do, pay for their W-2 wage. I pay their 50% of their Social Security, of their Medicare, and other things. Plus, we also pay into the Texas Workforce Commission. And in case any of those employees are fired and they do receive the compensation, we are secured through that monies. Now, to come in and say, you're going to start off this employee at $8, Commissioner, we can't be telling, well, at least I can't. I wouldn't accept it as a contractor for you to come tell me, this is what you need to do and I'm going to give you a preferred vendor. I think everybody has a right to be a vendor. And if I'm going to abide by going this, we're in troubling times. Now, every vendor speaks for themselves. Their employees speak for themselves. And they pay what they pay. Some positions require a minimum wage because they require no educational experience. They require a minimum of a GED or such as that. But to tell a contractor, to tell a vendor, this is what you're going to pay your employee, I believe that this city should not be involved because they're providing a service. And like Commissioner stated before, this will draw up. Don't say that it will not draw up the price. It will. And it's going to give those people that are trying to bring a business in, that are trying to do services for the city, all you're basically doing is you're giving the top dogs the opportunity, because they'll say, we can do it anyway. We're going to throw it in. We're going to slightly throw it into your bid, and we're still going to make that money, and everything is fine, which is fine. But the lower guy, the small guy that's trying to come in and can't afford it, because if you're fair about it, if I have an employee making $7.65 an hour, and I'm going to go up to the $8 or the $8.50, 35 cents, 40 cents might not be a lot. They'll tell you, you're being greedy. You don't want to give 35, 40 cents. But what happens to my employees that are making $25 an hour? What is just compensation? Am I going to give them 35 cents? Of course not. I have to look at the matrix. I have to look at the hours that they work. I have to see what kind of benefits they're receiving. And that in turn is not 35 cents per 40 hours a week. That in turn involves a whole different pay scale and a whole different matrix. And when the contractor receives that and he starts doing his numbers and starts crunching, you better believe that these contracts with the city are going to go up, and the prices are going to go up, and the only one that's going to feel it is going to be the city of Brownsville.
Commissioner, I appreciate what you're saying, and I must say that I disagree with you, because the city of Brownsville is not telling anybody to do anything. What we're saying is that we'd like to create a preferred vendors group. If you wish to be a part of that, this is what we'd ask. But we're not telling anyone anything. And that, let's make it crystal clear. Nobody's being told, you better do it this way, or forget it, you're out.
Oh, no, forget it, you're out,
because
but you're going to put me on
you're
preferred
still gonna-
vendors, and I think that's totally, completely
The
out.
committee, though, gets to make the choice, Rick, whether they want to go with the preferred group or whether they want to go with those that don't want to be part of the preferred group. And if this is a higher rate and this is a lower rate, well, guess what? They're going to go with the lower rate any day. Who would not? So, but we at least we're setting a precedent. And I think that's what we're missing from here. We need to set a precedent that we could establish two things. A group that says, I'm going to take care of my employees versus a group that says, well, maybe I'm not capable of doing that because my business is small, or I'm not making it right, I'm struggling. It doesn't mean we're going to exclude them. It just means that we get to see the two differences of both companies. And that's all that this does.
And let me correct you, Commissioner, Committee, we're not setting the precedent because...
well, for the city of Brownsville, because I know others have done it.
The PUB is part of the city of Brownsville. PUB has been doing this, I think, for 4 years already, and it's worked fine. We haven't had a problem. And we don't have no preferred list or nothing. It's just blanket. We felt that minimum wage, it forces people to be on welfare. And as a public entity, I think it sends the wrong message. I think our citizens deserve better than welfare. And I think we should be recruiting the very best to work for us. And this is an incentive to bring people into the work system that feel good about working for the city, directly or indirectly, through contractors. And they're happy about the job working, and they're getting a good, just wage to work for or work on projects for the city. Now it's up to them. It's up to the company really to police itself, or it's up to an employee to file a complaint with us saying, hey, they bidded for this job and they're only paying me minimum wage when they should be paying me based on this resolution a minimum of $8.50. But also I want to correct another thing.
Who gets liable? Who's liable?
Well, we don't do business with them anymore. We take them off the list, because when you go out for bids, you would expect everybody to pay a minimum of $8.50, and the competition would be fair. Okay, if somebody's lying, then somebody complains, then we bring it to attention and address that issue, because then it wasn't a fair bid. We assume, and because they have to sign that agreement, that they pay a minimum of $8.50. But I also want to make a correction over here. You're saying that this will be $1.50 above minimum wage. I wish we worded it a little differently. It's got to be $8.50, because if the law changes to raise minimum wage, then you're going to have you automatically go up $1.50. If that's the way you want it, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But what I'm saying is that
that's how it was written. Yes, sir.
I think the intent was here $8.50 to pass, not $1.50 above the minimum wage, because if next month they come in with legislation that changes minimum wage, then you go above the $1.50. But that's up to you.
Now I want to go back up there and speak on that. On this point.
Okay. Now you want to say something, City Manager?
Yeah, we right now we enforce the minimum wage.
$8.50.
We have to.
Yes.
It's a law.
The minimum wage is going to go to $7.25 in July.
Right.
That's why I said that.
I mean, the only issue we have is, for example, federal jobs.
So the state's already taking care of that.
Federal funding that's utilized for example, home rehabilitation we're doing right now, does not allow us to utilize their funds for more than what the minimum wage is.
And this excludes employees. This excludes federal.
We'd have to exclude federal funded jobs. That's what I'm thinking now. Well, I can verify that, but I would say that.
Yeah, well, this excludes the federal.
Wait a minute. You're saying federal funds does not allow us to pay, and I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about people that bid contracts. Doesn't allow them to pay $8.50.
It dictates that we pay the minimum wage. If that's what they're going to pay, we'll have to make up the difference somehow.
No, we wouldn't be making up a difference. This would not apply to the federal.
Well, it's not going to apply to federal. That's fine.
Right. Well, then that's what I'm saying. It's not going to cost us anything. It wouldn't apply to federal projects. Only city,
Jerry,
local.
Hilda, Desma, please come up to the podium.
Sure.
Nobody's telling you not to. Please come up.
Come on up.
You've done it before.
I invite you.
You're always allowed. You're always allowed to come up.
But nobody's telling you not to come up, Jerry.
You
We're
come
talking
from
about
over there, over here.
I'm sorry?
You come from over there, over here. You
Okay.
can come up here anytime.
Okay, please address.
I think that the Davis-Bacon prevailing wage rates may be what you're referring to,
Yes.
but those are minimum wages that you have to pay. Those are to protect workers. Nothing says you can't pay above prevailing wage rates, Davis-Bacon prevailing wage rates, but that's the minimum. That's to protect the worker. And the point of the matter is that, for example, in construction, the Valley has consistently paid 1/3 in all the gamuts of construction compared to, for example, Houston. And what we've had in the Valley is a transition of workers that are trained here. It takes a lot of money to train people to do good jobs. When they get trained, they move north where they get employed because they get much better wages. We're constantly in the position of retraining and losing qualified workers because we got a culture of paying low wages here. I see the city commission's job, and the county, by the way, the county's already passed, Carlos, you know that, an $8.50 base wage in all their contracts for public works for the county. And I guess you did that on PUB too, before that. We're just asking that the city now do it in your own fashion. We talked about how to write this up in a way that get the majority on board in a different fashion than just saying $8.50 an hour. We worked it out to put a preferred vendors list, I guess. But I think that your consideration is ought not just to be the budget and the monies, but it ought to be what you're doing to help the ordinary wage earner provide for his family's, her family's needs here in Brownsville, and of course throughout the Valley. And in your position to do that, you're helping the entire community. I would like to see you have a broader vision than just looking at your own employees, which is very important. But what can you do for the entire community to raise that wage rate, which is 1/3 of what they're paying there? And you're going to find that when we do this kind of stuff, you have less absenteeism, you have greater morale, you have a higher commitment to the area, and there are all kinds of benefits that people who've done this have seen as a result.
Thank you. Anybody else? We have a motion to table.
I just have one question from legal counsel. Is there a liability for the city in the event of contractors?
My only question was one of specificity. You accused me of being overly cautious. And in terms of number 2, it states that persons on the wage preferred vendor list would be exempt from otherwise applicable bid bond requirements. I simply would suggest that language that would state this provision shall not be interpreted to apply to payment bonds or performance bonds, and I think that would adequately address any legal concerns.
So let me ask you something. Based on your knowledge of this issue, isn't it something you may want to research more to make sure we're doing it right, or are you okay with it? Or?
Well, I'm fine with it. I mean, I think it's a public policy decision whether or not the city, you as elected officials, want to set a livable wage for contractors of the city. The concerns of council would be simply to make sure that we're talking about bid bonds and we're not talking about payment bonds or performance bonds. Those are different things.
That's correct.
So with that clarification, I wouldn't have any legal objection.
So, Commissioner, would you want to withdraw your motion? I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Commissioner Merrick, can I correct myself? Now that I see, I think we can pay more than the minimum wage.
Why we couldn't, but
no, I got the paperwork now, and it's allowed.
Would you like to withdraw your motion?
Well, I still want to. So, city staff's okay with it?
We can work with this. If there's issues, we can come back to you. But for now, we'll work with it. I mean,
let me ask you, who tracks whether these vendors are paying $8 an hour, $8.50 an hour? Who tracks?
Well, a lot of it's going to come from the employees. Their concern is they're going to come back. They're going to come forth and say, "Wait a minute, I'm not getting paid what." Especially they're not getting paid the minimum wage.
Well, it should be in
they
the
can file complaints, but
the purchasing department
within our contractual agreements, we'll identify what the wages
can be included in the contract.
In a lot of the federal issues, they have to indicate that anyway.
I for one have a problem, but I'll vote for it. But I have a problem with wage preferred vendor list. I think it should be adopted like this, a PUP did. I mean, it's just overall.
That's why I think we should table this until we.
But I think that's.
Commissioner, we've tabled this. We were doing it that way, the way the mayor's asked. That's the first way it was presented, and we had to table it, and then we tried to tweak it again, and it wasn't working. So here we come a third time. Doesn't cost the city a single thing. We're, again, doing something that would work. I mean, and now we're saying, well, let's go back to the way it was.
But why call it a
first time.
preferred vendors list? Let's just approve it.
We can call it whatever we want to call it. Again, the purchasing department's going to have to amend their votes anyway.
Without taking that language.
First, let's start off with you withdrawing your motion.
I'll withdraw my motion, but.
Okay, we have a motion to withdraw. Do we have a second? To allow him to withdraw the motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's withdrawn. Now, can we have a motion?
I make the motion to approve the resolution with the provisions that City Attorney Mr. Sassi has indicated, which is the bid bond does not overrule the performance bond.
Second.
Take out the
preferred. I don't like.
And we'll eliminate the
Does
preferred.
somebody want to make an
Whoa,
amendment
why
to
don't,
this?
okay,
I'm sorry.
you've got a second now. If you want to have discussion, and there's some discussion.
We got a second. Can we have an amendment?
Wait, he
Somebody
was
wanna make an
just
amendment?
gonna, he was just gonna add that part.
Well, he got a second before he started.
Right.
Because you interrupted.
That's
You
fine.
just got to follow procedures, Commissioner. Okay, now we have a motion, a second. It's
We
open
can
for
talk about it. We
discussion.
can change it
If
if
you
we
want
want
to amend it, this is the time.
I
to
would
do it.
like, if you can, add the part taking out the
Preferred.
issues of preferred vendors.
I will amend the motion to include the deletion of preferred vendors list, and we call it something else.
And the performance bond. Does that include the performance bond?
Well, that had already been included.
The provision
with
is included.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend. Can we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. So to be clear, City Manager, when we go out for bids, it'll just, that'll be part of the criteria.
And present contracts excluded from.
Yeah, present contract exclusive. But it'll be part of the criteria when it goes up for bids that contractors must pay at least a minimum of $1.50 above the minimum wage. Okay?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Well, I guess I'd like clarification.
It says right there $1.50.
Take out $1.50 and just make it $8.50.
If you take out the preferred vendor issue. and
That's
then
done already through the amendment.
Right, through the amendment, he's done that. And then you take out the 150, what are you left with?
But nothing. No, we're saying.
I mean,
It's going to be more than. It's going to be more than.
Or you can apply this.
It's still above
I guess the question I
850.
have, hold on a second, if I may. The question I have is this going to be applied across the boards?
Yes.
To everyone?
To everyone.
Except on the federal projects, which we cannot apply this rule to.
So any contractor who is going to do work with the city of Brownsville based on the way we've amended it now.
Correct.
Would have to pay $1.50, or you're going to take out the $1.50 and you're just going to make it $8.50? Because, I mean, if you start looking at the living wage calculation for the city of, for the Cameron County, and you go to the Ford Foundation, and they have their living wage gap study, and they've also got the Penn State EMS Environmental Institute study on living wage, and you start getting into what the poverty level would be. Living wage in Cameron County, according to 2008 living wage calculator, would be $7.56 per one adult. With one adult and one child, it'd be $15.20. 2 adults, 2 children, they'd have to make $26.22 per hour. Is what you'd have to get. And so, you know, are you going to leave it at $8.50? Or are you
He's right there. He's saying 150 above.
Well, no, but see, they changed it already.
It's going to
And they said it was $8.50. And now, are you saying it's going to be $1.50 over the minimum?
No, we said that it would be $1.50 above the federal government's
So
minimum wage.
in July, it'll be $8.75.
Yeah, 875 in July.
Yeah.
So it adjusts as time.
Well, and that's the question I had, because it sounded like you were taking out the adjustment and making it a flat rate.
No, but he said no.
No, that we never removed.
That was not his motion. His motion was based on this, based on what the city attorney recommended, and the provision there that is applied across the board. Right, Commissioner?
That's correct.
Okay.
Across
We have a
the board,
motion.
Mayor?
Huh?
Across the board?
That's
Across
what
the
they're saying
board.
now, is across
There's
the
no
board.
preferred, there's no preferred.
No, I'm sorry. No, what I meant was 150. Where's Pete Gonzalez?
Yeah, where's Pete?
What it means is that when we go out for RFPs, part of the requirement to be able to bid.
Is to have an employee starting off at
At
$8.75.
$1.50 above the minimum
$1.50.
wage.
Pete Gonzalez.
Mr. Gonzalez, Finance Director, you're here? Okay. And Assistant City Manager.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
I don't have a problem with the minimum wage. Mi problema no es con el minimum wage. ¿Ok? Vamos a entender eso. El problema no es con... No me diga que no, Lupita. El problema no es con el minimum wage. No es el 1.50. El problema es este, Pete González. En el matrix de la compañía que viene, si el empleado que comienza a 1.50 se le va a otorgar 1.50 más por hora, ese no es el problema, se le puede dar. ¿Qué va a pasar con la estructura de esa compañía? En este contrato se va a incluir la estructura del ingeniero, de la persona que está en las porciones. ¿Ellos van a recibir 1.50 más por hora?
No. Above minimum wage. An engineer does not make minimum wage.
No, that's what I'm saying.
No.
But if they're on an hourly,
Yeah, but
and I mean, you have two attorneys present.
City employees will be making.
City
it's really
employees.
not a big issue as far as it has to deal with the vendors that come
Yeah,
in.
the city employees.
If you have an employee that's on an hourly wage, okay, mind you, an engineer is somebody you would have on a salary.
But if
you have one of your high
project, somebody's working on this project, if they come back and complain to us that they're getting.
Well, that's you're on that end. I'm not on that. That aspect of the issue is not my problem. If you have an employee that would be making $8.75, that's your starting off basic employee making an $8.75, and you've got a construction crew, or you've got a foreman that's making $9 an hour. Chief of police makes a certain amount of salary. His commanders are about 20 grand under him. Okay, and we continue. You've got a foreman that's making $9 an hour, and this employee that's starting off at the bottom of the scale is making $8.50. Is it fair to that $9 employee for him to get $10.50 an hour with the responsibility he has, and an employee being that much under him? That's my concern. It's not the 150 more on the minimum wage. My concern is the employees that you have on an hourly.
But we're venturing way beyond what we're talking about here.
Mayor, you're going to deal with it in the
No,
contract.
we're not going to deal with it.
Mayor.
The vendor or the contractor is going to deal with it. If he doesn't want to pay his foreman a wage that will be the incentive to keep him there, and he doesn't value him to pay him a good wage, well, then the foreman will go look for another job.
Well, can I ask a question? This city employees make how much an hour?
Right now, it's
Regular starting out.
$8.50.
$8.50.
Not
So when this
all
gets in
not all
effect,
employees.
we're gonna have to give everybody a 25-cent raise?
No.
This is a contractor's
On the contract.
living wage, right? So this is those that do contract with city base. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm
But
going
if
to
the
amend.
if
Hold
the
on.
contractors are gonna be making $8.75
Well, this is
an
what I'm
hour,
gonna do. I'm gonna-
as opposed to a city employee making $8.50.
And
Mayor.
employees that didn't get a raise this past year, mind you.
Right.
Again,
Hey,
these
what-
are
exactly-
individuals that are contracting
Well,
with the city of Brownsville.
Let me ask Pete. Pete, what happens if we're going to pay the vendors and their employees, or force them to pay $8.75, and the city employees are only making $8.50? When this happens, are we going to have to give all those employees that are making $8.50
That has
a
nothing to do-
25-cent raise?
has nothing to do with our
See, that's why
employees.
the whole structure of this thing changes.
So
when
why, if you're
you
paying
apply it
everybody
across the
else
board instead
higher
of
wages,
limiting
the city employees are going to come and ask you for a raise?
You're discussing a fairness issue, but this has nothing to do with our employees. This has to be with contractors' employees.
But what's going to happen? We're trying to look at it. You don't think you're going to have employees saying, "Hey,
Yes, I do.
So you're going to have
Yes, I do.
You're going to be forced to give everybody
No,
a 25
Commissioner.
No, we're not going to be forced to do nothing.
If a city employee,
Don't you feel obligated?
Yes.
Commissioner, if a city
How much is
employee,
that gonna be
if a
worth?
city
That's all
employee
I'm
wants to go to the private sector and make above what they're making with the city, they'll go, right? PD wants to go and make more money, they go. If I want to go make more money, I will leave where I'm at to go make more money. Again, we each will do that, all right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to amend, if I could, Mayor, amend the current motion and exclude the 150 and just cap it at 850.
Okay. Why don't you withdraw your amended motion?
I will withdraw my amended motion.
Do we have a second to withdraw?
I second it.
We have a motion to withdraw.
And I make the motion to approve the rest of
Wait a
the...
second. Let's get this done first. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Now, you want to amend the original motion?
My motion is to approve the resolution with the provisions of the preferred bond not be included as part of this, exclude the preferred vendor list, and exclude the $1.50 above federal minimum wage, and replace that with $8.50 flat rate.
Second it. I second you, man.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? No. We have motion second.
I have this discussion. Just one last thing to say. Camarillo, when you mention right now, you know, that a city employee has a right to go out. What are you talking about, man?
We all have the right to do what we want.
Hold on.
Commissioner, this has nothing to do with our city employees.
What I'm getting at is this. We didn't give our employees a raise. We didn't give our employees 1 red cent this past year. Now you're coming and you're saying that you're going to give a contractor the right to pay his employees when our employees didn't get a red cent this past year.
Commissioner, I came before this group and I asked you to consider a preferred vendors list. You all have stated nobody want the following. We did this months ago. You said no. I can't make up the mind for you. Our employees are going to do what we like. Do we want to give them a living wage increase? They do. Do they deserve it? Heck yeah. And we need to work it in the budget to help our employees. There's no doubt. But we're not talking about the employees today. We're talking about those that are contracted with the city of Brownsville. This should have been done a long time ago. Again, I wish I could have had a crystal ball to say we didn't want to be here at this point, but that's not the way it is.
I second it, and I urge that you go to UTB and make sure they're paying their maintenance crews up to $8.50 also.
This is good. The city of Brownsville now is going to follow suit. PUB already has it. The county already has it. The city's not going to adopt it, and hopefully a university will adopt it. You want to say something? You need to speak on the mic, please. Father Jerry?
Your minimum wage workers, your 850 workers are also getting pensions. They're also getting health care. You're going to find out that in the construction business, for example, the people that will benefit from what you're doing.
The people that construct here are
well, let me finish my statement.
What are you talking about?
May I finish my statement?
Well, you got to talk it back. All our construction in the United States are being. They use illegal aliens and border crossers.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
I wish you would make those kind of statements.
That's true, though, man.
What I want to say is that the people to whom this pertains, whether they be construction or otherwise, that you're going to find out that if you talk with them personally, as I have done with many over the years, they get neither.
I see them crossing the bridge all the time.
They get neither pensions nor do they get medical coverage. And that's something that you give your workers, which is extremely valuable in addition to the $8.50 an hour.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion, a second. Let's get through this.
I thought we had a motion second. I thought
we already do.
We just need it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Is there any opposition? Your vote is yes, then I will assume.
I'll vote yes. I second him.
He seconded the motion.
Okay. Yeah, but you said
the second time around.
You can still vote contrary based on what he was saying. You still vote contrary.
Not to argue, but I think if you
passed.
Second the motion,
Thank
you can't really vote against it.
Thank you. Okay. Next.
Item 14, consideration and action to approve the process timeline for fiscal year 2009 through 2010 HUD entitlement grants.
Yes, Mayor, Honorable Mayor, City Commissioner. This is just a timeline so we can publish the meeting dates for our public hearings. Ask for your approval this time.
Move to approve.
This is a public hearing. This is a public hearing.
No, move to close public hearing.
No, it's not a public hearing. It's an action item.
Now you're confusing me.
It's an action item. Second. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item 15, consideration and action to award a term contract for the purchase and delivery of reflective sheeting for traffic control signs for the traffic department.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion. A second. Any discussion?
I'd like to ask a question. Mr. Luna.
Yes, sir.
One of these traffic lights, is this...
Just the box.
Yeah, this is just the boxing, but what's happening with the one on Dana and 802 that we had the state pay for?
It's coming up.
Coming
That
up when?
traffic light,
Really
it
needs to
is.
be
Coming up when?
rushed. That's text
Robert,
dot.
you can go.
Go ahead, Robert.
We approved it more than 6 months ago.
Robert?
Mayor, Commissioners, you want to know about the Dana Road?
Yeah, the Dana and
802?
802.
The city of Brownsville already took care of the designs for the drawings for the signal, which was the city of Brownsville's responsibility. That's done already. Gave it to the state. State accepted that, and the state's waiting for other bids to get the signal going on Dana Road. The only thing is that it's being delayed because they're going to do one package, other intersections from the valley.
Well, let's just do what we can to
What are
try
they,
and get this moved along.
What are they doing about the sidewalks on the north and south side of the 802 expansion?
As far as I know, the north side's they're being sidewalks as we speak. They were building the sidewalks, today. We passed by there today, and they're being continued. The south side, I'm not quite sure on that south
Are
side.
you talking there about 802?
It's not budgeted. They didn't budget it. We'll have to talk to TxDOT, and I'm sure they're going to say, you need to put in some money.
At the last MPO meeting, I brought that issue up.
We're off.
They didn't budget it, but they're willing to enter into a joint financing of the sidewalks on the south side with the city.
Wasn't that only going to be like $30,000 or something like that?
We haven't heard what their proposal is.
No, I haven't heard that. All I know is they are doing the north side. Like I said, Mr. Copper says, the MPO was
And I think that we're not going to do the north side. I called about 2 months ago, based on Mr. Bob Anzac's request, and because but anyway, it's getting done. But the south side needs to be done also.
Yes.
Needs to be addressed.
Also, like I said, Dana Road, everything, we completed everything. The city's done. We're just waiting for the state to.
Well, let's see what we can do to get them to move it along, Robert. You know what I mean?
Sorry?
Let's continue to talk to them. Let's try and move it along because it's badly needed.
Yeah, it's a bad intersection. We're all working along. I talked to Jesse Ayala, the traffic engineer for the TxDOT, and he's aware of it. And I do keep in touch with him.
Yeah.
Try to get this light as soon as possible. It takes time for state funding to get through. You know how it is.
Any further questions? Okay, can we have a motion?
Thank you.
So moved to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
But that approved.
It's already
Any
approved.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 16.
Item 16, consideration and action to award a contract for the purchase, delivery, and installation of gymnasium and boxing room floor covering for the Brownsville Recreation Center.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Adjourn.
Thank you. Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.